Should I, 21F, be concerned about what my boyfriend, 22M, said? Am I overreacting? I've been with my BF for almost 2.5 years, and he's never made me feel concerned in this way. Am I overreacting? My BF and I were laying down and laughing and messing around, and then he put me in a headlock without pressure and then goes, "I could put you to sleep," and it kind of freaked me out that he said that and that the thought would even pop into his head about me. It wasn't necessarily the headlock that bothered me, because I know he was just messing around and he wasn't doing it hard. But the fact he said, "I could put you to sleep," really weirded me out and caught me off guard. So I asked him why that would even pop into his head, and he goes, "That's what they do in UFC." But it just really freaked me out. Am I overreacting, or is it concerning he said that? I feel like I, 34M, can't speak about my true feelings with my 34F partner. I've never felt so alone while having a partner before. Long story short, I have been with my girlfriend for a little over a year now. We've worked on a lot of issues together and have been, like any other couple, through a lot. Alcoholism, the passing of her parents, my fractured relationship with my mother, growing up not knowing my father, etc., etc. Lately, especially during the holiday season, I struggle with depression. I feel like every time it's obvious that I'm feeling down or need a small amount of encouragement or uplifting, there's no attempt on her end to reach out or inquire or provide that. I've tried to talk to her about when I get quiet, the meaning of that and / or what I need in those moments to feel better. Nothing ever improves. My question: how do I approach her and tell her she's not providing the emotional support, and hasn't been for quite some time, that I need in order to feel like I'm not wasting my time here? At the same time, avoiding an argument. It's as if she doesn't know me, or at least that's what it feels like on my end for me. I could go into so many further details regarding this and a ton of other issues if anyone needs clarification. It's been a tumultuous rise so far, and I'm not sure if I should stick it out, or if I'm able to for that matter. I feel like I, 34M, can't speak about my true feelings with my 34F partner. I've never felt so alone while having a partner before. How do I explain to my family that I don't want to spend the holidays without my partner TLDR? How do I 1. Explain that I will not spend the holidays without my partner? I have said this statement for multiple years and it hasn't stuck. 2. Manage to spend time with both families during the holidays and make my time with my family actually enjoyable. Me, 24F, and my wife, 27F, have been together or 5.5 years and married for 10 months. Both of our families celebrate New Year's, not Christmas. This becomes a problem with also the fact that my parents have a pretty boring celebration and I don't really care to celebrate with them. My wife's chosen family, on the other hand, loves to play games and do a bunch of fun stuff and prep on New Year's Eve and stay up late playing games. I like spending New Year's with them. I also don't like spending the holidays in general without my partner. My family, aka my sister mainly, is always like, "Why are you so attached at the hip? Can't you just come on your own? You don't have to do everything together." And I am so tired of this sentiment. Like, I am not bothered that she has spent holidays without her husband, but I don't like the idea of not spending the holidays with my wife. And I always feel like I'm just being guilt-tripped to hang out with my family, instead of getting reasons to actually hang out with them, and constantly yelled at by my sister. How do I 1. Explain that I will not spend the holidays without my partner? I have said this statement for multiple years and it hasn't stuck. 2. Manage to spend time with both families during the holidays and make my time with my family actually enjoyable. In other complaints, they always get sad if I change my plans that make more sense for us, but like they don't make effort to see me and stuff. Like, we moved out of town this year and all year my family has been like, "No, we can't make it up there." Her family said they would for Thanksgiving, but some financial stuff made it harder. At least they had the sentiment to try and show interest in coming. My family is just like, no, like I live 30 minutes from them and they came over like once in those 2 years, not for the lack of me inviting them. Ugh, just needed to vent. How do I trust my boyfriend after he refuses to tell me the truth about his past? When my 18M boyfriend and I 18F first started dating, it was important for us to know each other's past. We talked for a very long time and really got to know each other before jumping in the relationship. Therefore, when we first started dating, we both asked each other who we previously talked to and dated, with expectations that we told the truth. Neither of us are really interested in talking to or dating many people. One of the reasons we talk so long, so naturally out of curiosity we wanted to know each other's past. He expects me to tell the truth, and I expect him as well. While we were talking, I noticed a particular girl who was in his likes, on his spam, he was on her spam, etc. Keep in mind her spam consisted of 2 people, which was just him and her. Before, everyone says that you can't pay attention to social media. For someone our ages, this is a very good indication. He asked me to play Minecraft after we started dating, and he was my only Xbox friend. Before I joined, I noticed there were many people that showed as mutual friends, but he had just deleted his friends, basically removing any trace of the past friend people. I guess this was a glitch and Xbox hadn't fully processed the friend deletion since he has just done it. This was okay, except I saw the same girl on his Minecraft mutual friend list as well. It appears that they used to talk. She reposted all of his posts, only had him on her spam, was one of the only guys he followed, even played Minecraft with him, etc. This isn't a big deal. I understand he will talk to other people just like I did. The only problem is that he never mentioned talking to her. Anyone that he has done similar things with, he always assures me was his friend. He is a very friendly person, and I really believe that those were just some of the people he would hang out with occasionally. He really only have 2/3 of these anyways, so it's not like it is anything crazy. I know y'all might think it sounds suspicious, but it really isn't. Anyways, he never says he was really good friends with her or anything. I have only brought her up once, trying to not seem suspicious. During the Minecraft situation, he nervously said he played Minecraft with her and his best friend. He doesn't follow her or anything like that anymore. This just makes it even more suspicious to me. Her contact isn't in his phone, they don't have each other on any socials, and it is clear they have cut each other off. She unfollowed him first though, and for a while he was following her without a follow back. He has girlfriends he has fallen out with, but he at least has them on Snap or a contact saved. How come he felt the need to delete her contact, etc.? This is not a normal reaction for him having a girlfriend. All of these things make it look like they were talking. It is not an issue, it is just the fact he will never admit to it. I have heard he has talked to other people before, and he just says he was interested and it doesn't count. This situation looks like he was more than just interested. It is honestly off of a gut feeling, and there are lots of things that make it appear they were talking as well. It bothers me he expects me to tell him every detail about my past and to not lie, but he obviously doesn't want to tell me his. How do I get over this, and how do I trust him? It makes me wonder why he even feels the need to lie to begin with. BF, 25M. Snores so loudly it affects my 25F, sleep high. I am typing this as I have been interrupted in sleep yet again. I'm not asking for advice on how to communicate with him to see an ENT doctor, as he has already agreed to do that, no problem. I am more so just asking for advice on how we can help our relationship for the time being. My boyfriend snores incredibly loudly. It is concerning sometimes too, where he is gasping for breath, and it sounds like it could be sleep apnea. It used to only be this bad when he drank, but lately it has become an every night ordeal, and he has not been drinking lately. We have tried everything. Earplugs, nose strips, mouthguard, sleeping on side, he has lost weight, etc. But it is still so loud it wakes me up in the middle of the night, and then I wake him up by nudging him or kicking him. Then he wakes up and gets angry that I woke him up. He also seems offended whenever I talk to him the next day about the snoring, which I hate because I don't want his feelings to be hurt, but I want him to understand the severity of how it is affecting me. We sleep in separate rooms most nights, but it sucks because we want to be able to sleep together like a normal couple. I'm tired of being exhausted, and I just want advice for how to navigate our relationship so that we both don't hate each other. Thanks. Was I cheated on? F31. I'm 30 during this year. I felt very lonely and insecure. I noticed my partner was making less and less effort to keep conversations going. When we were about to see each other, he would only talk about how much he needed sex, and that made me sad because I wanted him to value other aspects of our relationship. But I thought it was just a phase and that things would eventually improve. He told me he had been watching porn but decided to stop because it was affecting our intimacy when we were together. During this year, a new colleague joined his team. Reminder. They worked remotely and only saw each other when he came here for a week. They had frequent video calls because she needed his help. I overheard some of their conversations, which made me uncomfortable. I told him I didn't like how close they seemed and that it made me feel very insecure. They would talk about their personal interests, family matters, holiday plans, etc., spending half an hour or more discussing such things before getting to work. In early September, I asked him whether we were still together out of love or simply out of habit because I felt he was distant and didn't care for me as much as before. Since we weren't together in person, we talked via video call. He was very upset and crying, telling me he loved me deeply and wanted to be with me, which gave me comfort and hope. At the end of September and beginning of October, I visited him and everything went well. We had fun, went out, had good intimacy, and I was very happy when he told me he wanted to have children next year and wanted me to be the mother of his kids. He said I would be a great mom. However, in October, he stopped being affectionate, stopped treating me as usual, and stopped saying he loved me. I felt him pulling away. In November, he returned to our country. That week, he came home between 4 and 5 a.m., and on a Saturday, he ended things with me. He said many strange things which didn't make sense because he had always told me I made him very happy and that I was one of the most important people in his life, just like his mother. He said he still loved me and didn't know if it was the right decision but felt he had to make a choice because he no longer believed in a future for us. After that, he left and we didn't get to discuss it further. He came back to our country in December for Christmas, and I managed to talk to him. Despite feeling some disdain from him at times, he told me he no longer loved me and had started talking to someone else just a week after our breakup. I asked if it was his colleague, but he refused to answer. Suspicious, I started looking for answers. I tried to contact his colleague, but she never responded to me. Eventually, I found out who her boyfriend was. When I spoke to him, I discovered that she had broken up with him around the same time my partner ended things with me. He said she had become distant during that period and had even come home late the same week with the same excuses my partner had given me. It was impossible not to think they had cheated. Her boyfriend was shocked and said he hadn't seen it coming. They were even looking for a house to move in together. They had been in a relationship for 8 years. What do you think? I believe cheating isn't just physical. I had already told him I didn't like how close they were and that it made me feel insecure. But he did nothing. He kept giving her attention. I feel like he stayed with me while testing the waters with her, and once he realized he had a chance with her, he left me. It's been very hard to deal with all of this. I feel lost, directionless, lacking confidence, and terrified of being unhappy and not achieving my dreams. I feel a heavy weight on my chest. I'm always nauseous, have no appetite, and sleep poorly. How can someone talk about building a family and then end everything? How can someone stop loving me in just 1 month? I always wanted to build a family with him. I always supported, praised, and boosted his self-esteem. I encouraged him in everything. He always said I made him very happy and helped him feel good. But in our last conversation, he told me he realized he wasn't happy. I'm already seeing a psychologist. My 22M girlfriend's 22F mom treats her horrible and has for years. Should I take action? People of the Reddit, I have been dating my 22M girlfriend, 22F, for over 3.5 years. We're very happy in our lives and self-sufficient. We've lived together for over 2 years. Both of us recently moved to the south from the north this past summer and have good jobs and a great relationship. Her mom and dad got divorced at a really young age. Mom remarried, and both of them are truly unpleasant people. She cut off her dad for a while because of his actions, but's that a whole other story. Her mom has money, paid for her college, got her a car, and all these financial-centered things and holds that over her. But she treats my GF terribly. She said things to her that are truly disgusting even before the events that occurred this past week, such as fat-shaming her, even when she is not overweight at all, insults her appearance. Most of the actions my GF takes insults me to her, etc. She previously suggested that my GF be committed to the psych ward for wanting to move in with me after a year of dating. She plenty of times has used her power over her by threatening to take away things such as phone and car insurance when GF was in college and calling her ungrateful, unless she did damn near anything her mom demanded of her even after she moved out. This past holiday week, she went down to her mom's vacation home for Christmas. I was unable to go with since my job requires me to be on the road for a week at a time and I missed actual Christmas altogether. Because that was the case, my parents came down for the weekend to celebrate Christmas before that with us. It was 2 weeks' notice and my GF decided to delay her drive 2 days so she could see my parents for a couple days because they absolutely cherish her and she cherishes them back. We had an amazing time. She tells her mom about not coming down until 2 days the original plan after weeks in advance, and it didn't even matter much because they had nothing planned and are ending up spending 7 days together anyways. Her mom is absolutely furious with her and yells at her on the phone. Didn't talk to her for at least a week after. When she leaves to go to her mom's, she drove 9 hours to be welcomed by her crazy mother, accusing her of not even caring about her, putting my family and I way before her, believes that I am a master manipulator intent on separating her from her mom. She also called her boy crazy, and that she isn't thinking straight, in between telling her how disappointed she is in her. Now, I didn't even persuade my GF to stay for my parents. She completely chose to do that herself. I simply let my GF know they were coming and she chose to make time for everyone she wanted to see for the holidays. To say the least, the week has been hell for her. Her mom has belittled her almost every day unapologetically, suggested multiple times that I am brainwashing her, called her ungrateful, and when she's not doing that she's getting into screaming matches with her husband, who is a genuinely chill guy. She even suggested she was thinking of a punishment for my GF because of the 2 days she spent with my family. I'm super upset about all of this because my GF is the sweetest girl there is, and she is scared of confrontation and won't stand up to her mom at all. She already goes to therapy in part because of all the things her mom has said to her growing up and continues to say to her. She knows it's not right what she says to her and how she treats her, and yet she will not stand up to her and tries to simply change the subject even though she is incredibly hurt by the things she constantly says to her. Her mom is truly rotten, I believe, and I can't stand how she makes my GF break down crying some days because of the things she says to her. She gets back tomorrow and will finally be able to let her emotions out for how she was treated this past week and how horrible her mom was to her. I've never had any confrontation with her mom before. We've always been cordial and nice to one another, but in a fake way because that's all her mom is. Fake. She'll be super nice to your face but say terrible things about you behind your back. My question to you guys is how to go about all of this. My GF has already cut off her dad and is sort of rekindling with him slowly. I would hate to see her cut off her mom as well, but she's arguably 10x worse to her than her dad. The huge issue is my GF is walked all over by her mom very easily, and she doesn't take action to defend herself from these verbal assaults and just takes it. But when it's over, my GF will break down in tears and has for years. I'm very careful to not get involved usually, but I am leaning towards absolutely confronting the hell out of her mother and giving her a verbal assault of my own for all the horrible things she has said and done to her the next time I see her. I know it's not a good idea, but I don't know how much more of comforting my GF cry for hours I can take with her mom causing it all. It feels like watching a bully pick on the same kid over and over again and sitting there doing nothing. There's a huge part of me that wants to take action for her because I don't know if my GF ever will, and unfortunately she will keep being miserable until something is said or done. It takes a heavy toll on me as well just watching it happen as I support her the best I can through it. I would never suggest to her that she cut off her mom. That's all her decision to make, and I am trying to avoid at all costs the choosing game between myself and her mom. Should I just stand by and be supportive, or should I intervene and put her mom in her place? Thanks for the help. My 19F boyfriend, 18M, doesn't care about spending NYE with me today. I saw my boyfriend for the first time in 5 days after his family was out of town for Christmas. We had dinner at my house and talked about how much we missed each other. Later, I asked him, "What are we doing for New Year's Eve?" He replied, "Do you even want to do New Year's?" His response caught me off guard because I assumed we'd spend the evening together, especially since he bailed on our Christmas plans due to his parents deciding to go out of town last minute. I understood that wasn't his choice, but it still stung. When I said I did want to do something, he told me he already planned to attend 2 parties his friends are hosting. Essentially, he said, "I'm going to these parties whether you come or not. If you don't want to join, you can stay home." This hurt because I thought we'd spend New Year's together. It feels like he didn't care whether I was involved or not since he made plans without even asking me. Being Japanese, New Year's is an important holiday for me. My family went back to Japan yesterday to visit relatives, but I stayed because of winter classes. Without my boyfriend, I'll be completely alone. I feel like spending the holidays together isn't a priority for him, and it makes me feel like an afterthought compared to his friends. I'm really sad. After the conversation, I just started crying and I sent him home. Am I overreacting for feeling this way? W31 had a fallout with my husband's M33 Kausing W27. Am I overreacting and how do I act moving forward? Hi, sorry this will be long. I'll try to make it as short as possible. Would love some advice though. I was friends with my husband's cousin W28 Margaret. In the last year we bonded a lot over being mistreated by my husband's family, to be fair. They are very difficult and have a lot of unhealthy behaviors. My husband and his sister are the golden children of the family. The grandma openly talks about it. I think my FIL is her favorite son, and that rubs off on his children. My husband and I are high school sweethearts. When I was younger, I had to deal with a lot of jealousy and mistreatment regarding me being with my husband. I suffered a lot. I was young and didn't know how to stand up for myself. My mom, who's also a therapy, always tell me I can't do anything right for them and I should stop trying. That's what I did, and it got a lot better since I removed myself from the quotation. I was the scapegoat for their expectations surrounding my husband not being fulfilled. There's still a lot of jealousy going around, and sometimes I get triggered, but mostly I've been okay. One example, because it will be relevant later. My SILW34 is pregnant with the first child of the family. My husband and I bought our unborn niece a little teddy bear from a baby boutique. We both work and are child-free. It's true we can afford it, but I didn't think much of it. I just saw the teddy in the store, went in and bought it. Around 3 months later, my SIL came to visit and my husband's grandma gave her a lot of clothes as a present. She then started telling my SIL loudly that she left the tag on the present so she can see that she can get quality things for the baby in retail for a good price. And not everybody has the money to shop in pretentious baby boutiques. It was a dig at our present we gave them month ago. My husband just ignores her and tells me she's jealous, but I was hurt. There is no need to talk shit about our present here. Just do you think my SIL is no one to compare presents. Well, back to the story. So Margaret and I became close friends in the last couple of months especially. I helped her a lot and defended her in her own family and also regarding my husband, because he kept telling me to be careful and she's difficult. Well, I should have listened. When my SIL announced her pregnancy, I told my BIL I would love to plan her baby shower. Couple of months later, my husband told me that Margaret was asking him for BIL's number and that he thinks she wanted to plan a baby shower for her. That's when things started to turn sour. I called her and told her that I'm more than happy to plan together. She was up for it, but soon started to do things I knew and told her that my BIL would not be okay with. I have to admit that I was triggered because it reminded me of how the family used to stomp on my boundaries and I didn't want to be part of crossing my BIL's boundaries. I wanted to respect them. So I told her that it's not okay for her to just invite people and decide things that my BIL didn't want to. Also, she didn't even talking to me, and that I thought we were doing this together. That's where she told me she doesn't have to tell me shit and she didn't want to plan this baby shower together. She wanted to plan it alone to show my SIL how much she means to her. I think she seeks validation and love through actions. She also has a lot of trauma and comes from a very problematic and narcissistic household. She told me that she asked my husband so I wouldn't know that she's planning something because she wanted to be the host and plan things her way. She wanted it to be her baby shower for my SIL and not a group thing. I was very hurt and went to talk to my BIL and told him, listen, I'm not the one crossing you boundaries and I can offer to do a baby shower that includes X, Y, Z. If you want something else, please accept her offer. He decided he liked my idea more, and when he told her, she absolutely blew up, telling me I'm ruining it for her. He chose me and she isn't doing shit anymore and she isn't coming. I was flabbergasted. I talked to my BIL and decided to pull out of planning and be a guest because I didn't like the toxicity of it and I want my SIL to have a beautiful party. I met up with Margaret and we talked it out. She told me some things that really hurt my feelings, how it's none of my business what she asks her cousin, my husband. He told me without me asking, but never mind. And I told her I was so excited to plan this with her. but we talked it out, or so I thought. When we were barely leaving, I told her the story of her grandma and the teddy and that I was very hurt by her jealousy. She then said, "Well, so I'm not the only one jealous of you and comparing myself to you." I went home that day really sad. I don't want this toxic competition anymore. I distanced myself from her a bit, but was still friendly. I just kept to myself. Fast forward to Christmas. She announces to the family and me that she is pregnant too, and far along, so she was already pregnant when the fight happened. My husband's grandma reacts poorly to the announcement. The golden child Asael is pregnant already, so she basically doesn't give a fuck. Everyone gets presents from the grandma and she and her husband get less than everyone else. They're the less favorite after all. And she comes to talk about this to me. I was still really hurt and told her that as she started comparing herself to me and acting the same way her family acts towards me, I'm not up for consoling her when they treat her poorly. I told her that I love her, but that I have to put myself first, and that I swore to myself that I will never end up in toxic competition with her family again. I also told her that the things she said to me were really hurtful, and I don't know if I want to be friends with someone that is jealous of me and tries to do things behind my back. She understood but was very sad. She says for her it's normal to say such things. I told her why she wants to be friends if she has such a negative view on me. She told me she thinks she's the worst person. She's not a good person, and it's normal to have negative view if you also have a positive view. Coming to now. I planned a little book for my SIL where all the friends can take part. I designed the whole book myself. It's like a friendship album. I asked her if she wants to also take part, and she literally tells me that she's really looking forward to see if my BIL expects my present, because she wanted to gift them a baby journal and he said that they don't need one. So she's nosy to see if he treats me better again. Also, the design looks a lot like the milestone card she's gifting them now. I chose a navy blue, but I didn't know she was gifting them the cards. So I sat down and redesigned the book to another color and really tried to have no resemblance. I told her she still can take part, but she has to stop with the jealousy and comparison. It will ruin our friendship. I send her a long audio telling her that I'm really disappointed after I talked to her about how much these comparisons and jealousy hurt me, and how much I suffered for always being the bad one and black sheep in this family. The scapegoat. And now she's treating me the same. She then told me that I'm right, that every time she talks to me she has a negative feeling and she doesn't want that for her pregnancy and she wants to limit the contact. That she doesn't see that she's doing anything wrong, and that on the contrary she thinks I'm doing everything wrong and acting malicious towards her with purpose. I then told her that I'm totally fine with going no contact. But I'm really disappointed with her and I want to be honest, and I don't think we will be able to repair this. She broke my trust in a way that's not salvageable. The thing is that her family likes to go no contact for a few weeks and then act like nothing happened. So I told her if that's the intent, just know that I'm not going to act like nothing happened. She said I was threatening her and that we'll talk in a few months. I wished her all the best for her pregnancy. I am beyond devastated. I am so sad. I don't know how to act around them without them thinking I'm acting superior. I really am not. I would love to have planned this baby shower together for my sister-in-law. I really would love to be part of her baby's life. I really love her and thought of her as family. My husband tells me that she is difficult and she overestimates her relationship to his sister. That his family has low self-esteem and they get their self-esteem by trying to know others down. How should I act about the baby shower? I'm thinking of not going because it's going to be at hers. But on the other side, I want to be there for my sister-in-law even more because this shower is nothing she would have wanted. Margaret has planned her own shower. There are barely people invited, 5 friends including me. If I drop out there would only be 4. My SIL has a lot of friends. I also don't know if it's pregnancy hormones. Apparently she is suffering a lot with mood swings. Thank you so much if you read it all. In the one toxic in my relationship high, it's a story about me, 22M, and my boyfriend, 24M. We know each other from past 2 years. We met as a random hookup, but then almost after a year we decided to get into relationship. I'm the toxic one in my relationship and I do everything intentionally. Intentionally not to hurt him but just to have fun secretly. I'm in a relationship where I love him a lot, but also I want my freedom to doing anything. Anything means having fun out of my relationship. Connecting more people online, not emotionally but just for my short-term pleasure. Maybe I give excuse of freedom to have fun, but I don't even want to stop this. I'm completely aware of what I do, but also I don't feel that it's a bad thing to do. Yes, I'm aware that it's bad to do being in a relationship, but I don't want to stop as well. I'm completely aware that I won't get anyone better than him, but why I want to be with him as well as I want me freedom so that I can do anything I want. Neither I want an open relationship. I can't leave him because I loves him, neither he want to leave me because he loves me. What should be done in this situation where you want your partner as well as your free life? I'm so done, but I can't say anything. I, 21F, can't say anything or I'll lose my education, rights, and probably my chance at a reasonably okay future. It's a bit of a read, so please bear with me. I'm studying at another country, came here 4 years ago, in South America. I grew up in the States. I don't really know the language or culture here other than what my parents taught me, but everyone assumes because I'm a girl I'm gonna fit into a mold and adjust because I have to. This last part isn't my own words. It's what I've been told. Personally, I don't believe in gender roles, but I do believe in respecting one another for the other's skills and contributions and balancing each other out. Growing up, my mother, 50F, used to love to point out how I was nothing like her and how she has a closer connection to my maternal cousin, her brother's daughter, and how they're more alike than she and I ever will be. Since then, I grew up to resent her and anyone who said I looked like my mother. There have been several instances of other actions, but this is just one example. I got over it and forgave everyone, and I just cope with them by not speaking about anything other than superficial stuff. My father's 58F side of the family is trash. They abused my mom, and my father was basically the only voice of reason in that house. He was also confused about his priorities because his mother was a master manipulator. I admit he neglected my mom, and I've asked her multiple times why she didn't just leave. She says she had her family's support but didn't want to. My parents aren't horrible people, but that was just a background on them. They haven't had it easy. Fast forward to now, I've traveled to my home country to study, and I've been staying with my grandparents and uncle 40M and aunt 32F, plus their kids now 2 and 4M. I love kids, so I have no issues taking care of their kids, but it's gotten to a point where they're competing with me, 21-year-old, to be at their level. I'm expected to manage their household and to watch their kids at the drop of a hat. There have been several instances where I have come home early from uni because I was worried for my grandma having to manage the kids and home at her age, but now I'm starting to think even that was a mistake. My grandpa and uncle are both loud whenever they please. Honestly, they're pathetic in their ideas and words, and my grandma doesn't have it any better. She is also abusive herself while also caring for me. My aunt is a whole other story. She's very manipulative. She's relentless towards me. But in front of others, she's the perfect daughter-in-law. Even though YM grandma has admitted on occasion that she's terrible, she doesn't support me in front of others, and I'm left to take the blame. I've never thought of ending myself over these pathetic experiences recently. I used to when it was my mother. My father sends money to cover our expenses and has said he'd like to pay what he would pay for dorm and food accommodations, but they refuse every time. My father has an account here and keeps a large sum in there and has said for them to take out whatever they wish. The money he sends them for our expenses are directly into their account. They encourage independence if it's what they like. Other than that, it's just do this, don't do that. They also have labeled me as a rude, obnoxious girl who's going to get beat up by her in-laws and future husband. Nothing new. I mean, my mom has 2 since I was 6 years old. I know if I say anything to my dad, he's going to talk to my mom and she's going to handle it. She'll convince him to not say anything, and when she visits I know she'll beat the trap put of me. Then she'll probably ship me off with someone trashy. I'll be forced into a situation and stuck forever. I earn my own money on the side, but I never spend it. My father has said to use the money he sends for my stuff and save up. Even then, I hardly spend more than $20 per month on my personal wants. I don't like spending money much or eating out. This is the only place I can say something without being misheard or manipulated into apologizing for something I didn't even intend to say. So thanks for reading, I guess. My 16F girlfriend has been ghosting me. 16M. Me and my girlfriend have a very tricky dynamic. We are the same age, but she lives with only her dad that won't let her date. So we are a secret. He goes through her phone. He watches her internet searches. He looks at her time spent on each apps. He won't let her leave the house. He tracks her location. and anytime she has a break from school, like right now, he takes the whole break off from work to babysit. He drives her to school and he picks her up. She gets grounded for everything, and she spent weeks convincing him that we were study partners and to let her have my number. We can only talk online other than during our lunch break, and she hasn't texted me. The last thing she said a week ago was responding to one of my texts where I told her how grateful I was to have her with an "I love you too, sweetheart." And since then she has gone completely ghost. I've texted her and she hasn't responded in a week. We use our school iPad to text when she is grounded / doesn't have her phone, and she has gone completely silent on that. 2. The night she stopped texting, I got home late from my second job, and I think that may have made her mad. I texted her good night at 11:50, and it shows that she read it but never responded, and since then she hasn't texted me. I am a very emotionally attached man, and she is too. She is very happy to see me in person but has on multiple occasions expressed her distaste for texting. She says that she doesn't like not being able to see the other person / know what they are doing, and I get that, so for the past few weeks I have compromised and we have barely texted once a day, mostly just saying goodnight to each other, and while I do hate it, I am perfectly fine as long as she is happy. This is our second time being away from each other for an extended period of time, and she knows how lonely I get. I need physical touch, which I can't have on breaks, and that's fine. But if I can't give her hugs or hold her hand, I want to be able to talk to her. And she won't talk to me. I know she's not in the hospital or any kind of danger because of my dad being friends with her dad and filling me in, and I honestly am thinking I did something wrong. I'm thinking about all the things I could have done, and I'm lost. I just don't know what to do. I am slowly losing my mind and I need help. I'll take any advice you'll got. Please be brutally honestly. I, 24F, got catfished by my BFs, 25M, X. He got defensive when I wanted to talk to her for closure. He now also has a female friend. That is making me feel extremely insecure. Please guide me on how I should proceed. My boyfriend, 25M, and I, 24F, have been in a long-distance relationship for more than a year now. We have gotten into occasional arguments but still love each other a lot. However, I am having doubts about this relationship right now and need guidance. For some context, when we first started dating, he had just broken up with his ex of 8 years. I didn't want to be a rebound, so we talked about it and eventually decided to continue the relationship. A month after being official, I saw his Instagram profile picture was still of him and his ex. He even had her name with a heart on his profile bio, among other unrelated stuff. I assumed that he didn't use Instagram, so he never updated it. Later on, I found out that he had edited his profile bio, but her name and picture were still there. I confronted him about it, and he revealed that he was still not over her. They also used to talk on the phone and text a lot, which I knew about but thought nothing of. We had a whole conversation about it and moved on from it. He unfollowed his ex, deleted their pictures, and everything went back to normal. Our love for each other grew each day and we got closer. He flew over multiple times to my country to see me. We had always been transparent about who we were talking to and whether boundaries were in place. A couple weeks ago, his ex catfished me. She wanted to see how we were doing and probably even see if I would cheat on him. We found out eventually, and he confronted her about it in person. She got embarrassed, and that was that. I couldn't stop thinking about it and felt like her ex, and I needed closure so that we all could move on. When I told him that I felt like I should contact her, he got really defensive and made me promise him that I won't message her. He said that she might try to stir things up and he didn't want any more drama. I agreed and never texted her. Fast forward to now, he has a female friend who leaves when she gets in a relationship and re-enters his life when she's single. I had to leave for a week, so we couldn't talk as much on the phone. He was lonely and he told me he missed me, then mentioned how this female friend was spending time with him and that he appreciated it. She bought him a sweater for Christmas, and she also bought gloves. He joked about how it was cold at his work. She even got food at his workplace during lunch break. He has mentioned multiple times before that she is pretty. I was fine with their friendship, but now it feels weird. His ex also didn't like this girl, but TBF, she was jealous of all the girls he talked to. I'm so overwhelmed with everything. As much as I trust him, I can't help but overthink. Given how defensive he got when I mentioned wanting to talk to his ex, it's just suspicious. Secondly, I told him I needed a break to think and that this female friend was making me insecure. His reply was, I'm sorry she made you feel that way, and I did too. Not my intention. Maybe I am just overreacting about everything. I love him a lot, and I know he loves me a lot too. But everything is so hard to deal with. How should I proceed? He ended things with me today. I 27F have been talking to this guy 28M for a month and a half, and today he ended things with me. He lives a few houses down from me, so I see him often. He got out of a long-term 7-month relationship about 4 months ago. She 29F left him in what he says was completely out of the blue. He hadn't seen her until about a week ago when he went to a friend's place to pick up a present, and she happened to be there. He said he realized he's still not over her and wants to end things with me because it's not fair to me. I asked him if he started talking to her again, and he said no, that there's no chance at all that they'll talk or get back together again. However, they do share the same social circle, so he will likely run into her again at some point. I also asked why he's feeling this way now. He said it's because the other girls he dated before me were casual, but with me, things were becoming more serious. I suggested that maybe we could keep things casual, but he said he couldn't do that with me because he would want to have a proper relationship with me. So, I told him to let me know if he ever wants to try again, and he told me not to wait for him. I'm so confused and don't understand what is happening. What does this even mean? And what do I do? He constantly tells me I'm the nicest girl he's ever met and that I'm so pretty. The entire time, it felt like he was crazy about me, and now all of a sudden, this? I honestly don't have much of a normal dating experience at all, so I don't understand any of this. Please help shed some insight. Why, if he knows he's not over someone, would he get involved with me? How can seeing someone he's never going to be involved with again trigger him to end things with me? I also asked if maybe he wasn't feeling it with me, and he said no, it's just that he's not over her and thinks he needs to be alone for a while. So then, why not keep it casual until he's ready? I do not understand. I feel stuck in a relationship with my 17FGF and me 19M. 19M, and my girlfriend, 17F, have been together for 2 years. We've kept our relationship a secret, meeting only when she got off school early or on her free days. Fast forward to now, she's graduated, and we haven't seen each other for about 2 months because school was our only excuse to meet. During this time apart, I've been feeling emotionally disconnected. I don't feel the same excitement about the relationship anymore. It all feels so dull. And to make things worse, her parents told her today that they don't want her dating anyone right now, that she shouldn't even think about having a boyfriend. Hearing this crushed me because, at the end of the day, I do love her. But part of me feels like this might be the sign to end things. The problem is, I don't want to hurt her. Breaking up would mean crushing her dreams and goals, taking away her happiness, her appetite for life, and that absolutely breaks me. But at the same time, I don't know if I can keep going in a relationship like this. I feel lost and need some advice. What should I do? Started to dislike guy I'm seeing? Hello. So I 23/F started dating this guy 24/M. He's very nice and everything, but I feel like he's not as affectionate as me. He told me I should take things slow with that, so I stopped being as affectionate, which is fine. Something I notice is that every time we see each other we have sex, and even he booked a vacation, of course I paid my part. And he mentioned after that when he went on vacation with a friend of his, this friend was the one who helped the most out of everyone he had gone on vacation with, even though I had helped a lot on vacation. Like, do you want me to do everything? He also makes fun of me for a lot of stuff. When I tell him about this, he says it is because I have Asperger's and take things too literally, but still I feel like he jokes a lot about stuff I told him I don't like. He mentioned that when we go out, I should leave the tips, and he pays, or he won't take me out anymore. I feel like this might be weird. Not only that, but he also always plans things last minute with me, but after work he has activities with friends, birthdays, etc., and tells me that BC he's doing a master's, that he's busy, and explained to me many times that he has a busy schedule, which I understand, but I still would like for him to plan something, you know. He also told me many times that he's going to make me better because I'm very immature, which I kind of understand, but I also want someone which I can joke with and that loves me for who I am. He also told me to not get too overdressed if we go out, because he doesn't appreciate those things and that I look better without makeup. He's a good guy, but these things about him really annoy me, and he doesn't seem to notice because we have such different lifestyles. I'm more of a homebody. What should I do? My fiancé didn't want kids at the wedding, not even my daughter. But when I arrived at the venue, I saw her 2 kids and 6 nieces and nephews. I just laughed in her face and told her the wedding was off. I'm 38, and I was supposed to marry Addison, 40, earlier this week. We'd been together for 3 years and engaged for 6 months. Everything was fine until the engagement. Then, issues started when we began discussing the guest list. I wanted my daughter, who's 14, to attend. Addison firmly insisted there were to be no kids at the wedding. This was strange, especially since she has 2 kids from a previous marriage and is very close to her 6 nieces and nephews. Most of our guests were parents, so I didn't understand her stance. We argued about it, but I eventually agreed, as long as her kids and nieces and nephews also weren't invited. Addison stuck to her decision. She claimed she wanted a stress-free wedding and didn't want to upset anyone with kids by making exceptions. Although it bothered me, I relented because she seemed so adamant, and it was a small wedding in my parents' backyard. Thought the kids wouldn't miss much. Everything changed a couple of days before the wedding. While at work, I got an email from Addison's younger sister, Kate. It included pictures of Kate's daughters in wedding outfits, asking for approval. I was confused until I realized the email had been sent to the joint wedding account Addison and I used. Kate must have sent it by mistake. I quickly took screenshots before the email disappeared. Sure enough, minutes later, Addison deleted it. I was furious. She'd planned to bring her kids and nieces and nephews despite telling everyone it was a child-free wedding. That evening, I didn't confront her. I pretended nothing had happened. At first, she seemed nervous, likely suspecting I'd seen the email, but when I didn't bring it up, she acted normal. 2 days before the wedding, I decided to talk to my daughter. I wanted to check how she felt about Addison because I was already having doubts. Thankfully, I did. My daughter revealed that while Addison was kind to her before the engagement, her attitude changed afterward. Addison began ignoring her when I wasn't around. Since I have my daughter for half the month, this was a significant amount of time. My daughter didn't tell me sooner because she didn't want to ruin my happiness. But when Addison excluded her from the wedding, she felt it was a sign she wasn't wanted in my life anymore. Hearing this broke my heart. I realized I'd let Addison manipulate me into sidelining my own child. That was the moment I decided the wedding was off. I confronted Addison the day before the wedding. I told my parents to let her know I'd see her on the wedding day. Instead of spending the evening at home, I spent it with my daughter, trying to make up for lost time. By the end of the day, we both felt much better. The next morning, I went to my parents' house, where the ceremony was supposed to take place. Some guests, including Addison's parents and sisters, had already arrived. To my surprise, all 6 of her nieces and nephews and her 2 kids, everyone under 12, were running around the place. When Addison saw me, she rushed over, likely to start explaining, but I cut her off. When Addison saw me, she hurried to the door and started explaining. She said she'd told Kate and Amelia that it was a child-free wedding, but they couldn't leave their kids at home. She also mentioned her parents thought it would be strange to have a wedding without her own children present. She rambled on with excuses, clearly thinking I was angry. I didn't interrupt until she finished. Then she noticed how I was dressed and started asking why I wasn't in my wedding clothes, where I'd been the night before, and so on. I just laughed in her face, pulled out my phone, and showed her the screenshot of Kate's email, the one she'd accidentally sent to our joint wedding account. Addison went silent. She knew she was caught, and there was no way to talk her way out of it. She started apologizing, but it was far too late. At that moment, I decided to tell her what I'd done the day before. I told her I'd spent the day with my daughter and learned how she'd been treating her since we got engaged. I didn't want an explanation. I just said we were done. I made it clear that I wasn't going to marry someone who didn't value my daughter. It hurt because I'd never treated her kids any differently than my own, but it was obvious that neither I nor my family meant anything to her. I didn't wait for her response. I turned around, got in my car, and drove back to the hotel. Later that day, I woke up from a long nap to find countless messages from our wedding guests. Friends and family were confused, and Addison's parents were furious. I briefly explained the situation to my friends and family and left it at that. I visited my daughter and told her I'd canceled the wedding. I also promised to spend more time with her. Over the last few months, we'd grown distant without realizing it. Before, she would always come to me if there was an issue. The fact that she hadn't this time showed me how much I'd failed her. We both got emotional, but it felt good to reconnect. It's been 5 days since the wedding was supposed to happen, and now almost everyone knows why I canceled it. It wasn't just Addison's treatment of my daughter, it was also her dishonesty. For me, honesty is a cornerstone of any relationship. I've been lied to and cheated on before, and I know it always starts with small lies. This was a huge lie, and she thought she could get away with it. That's why I don't regret canceling the wedding, even at the last minute. Some might think it was dramatic, but I think it was fair. She planned to spring this kids at the wedding thing on me at the last minute, so I did the same with the cancellation. That said, her family is furious. They think I was unfair because I didn't give her a chance to explain herself. Addison, along with her family, has been messaging me nonstop. Her defense? She claims she couldn't outright ask me not to invite my daughter but had her reasons. She also said it's insulting that after all these years, I didn't think our relationship deserved at least a conversation before ending it. She refuses to explain her reasons over text and says she'll only do it in person. Honestly, I can't imagine what kind of explanation would justify her excluding my daughter from our wedding. From what I know, there was never an issue between Addison and my daughter. Sure, I could have confronted her the day I found out, but I doubt it would have changed much. I still would have talked to my daughter, and I probably still would have canceled the wedding. Given how close it was to the date, the abruptness of the cancellation wouldn't have been much different. This subreddit is about wedding frustrations, so I'd love to hear, what would you have done in my shoes? Has anyone else canceled their wedding at the last minute, and why? Update 1. It's been 3 days since my original post, and I'm still staying at the hotel. Today, I contacted Addison and told her she needs to move out of the house as soon as possible. After all, it's my house. I lived there before she moved in, so I think it's only fair that she be the one to leave now that we're done. I've given her until the end of the month to find a new place. In the meantime, I'll be staying with a friend, as staying in a hotel long-term isn't sustainable. I'm feeling much better about my decisions. My friends have reassured me that I made the right choice by prioritizing what's most important. Being a father. I don't feel guilty about putting my daughter first. If someone has a problem with that, they don't need to be in my life. I won't apologize for choosing her. As for Addison's reasons for excluding my daughter, I honestly don't care anymore. If she can't explain them, then I don't need to hear them. At this point, I don't even want to see her. I've also blocked her parents and sisters because they were clearly aware of her plan and didn't warn me. That's deeply disappointing, especially since I thought I had a good relationship with them. I genuinely felt like I'd become part of their family. At least, that's what I believed until all of this happened. So far, I haven't responded to Addison, but last night I told her she needed to find a new place to live. I also made it clear that if she wanted to explain her reasons, she could, but it didn't matter anymore. The damage was done, and nothing she said would change things between us. That's all I had to say, and I haven't heard back from her since. For those wondering, no, I still don't know what caused Addison to change so drastically toward my daughter. I've talked to my daughter about it because I'm curious, but she doesn't know either. She told me she was just as shocked when Addison started acting differently. My daughter even tried to rebuild their relationship in the early stages after the engagement, but Addison stayed cold and indifferent to all her efforts. If anything, the issue seems to have been Addison herself. Based on what I've learned from my daughter, Addison is the one who changed. I know some kids struggle when their parents move on, but trust me, my daughter isn't one of them. To give some context, my daughter's mother and I were never married. We were together for 2 years before having her, but we broke up when she was 3 years old. My daughter barely remembers us as a couple. Besides, her mom has been remarried for 5 years now, so there's no lingering tension between us. I know for a fact that my decision to move forward and marry Addison didn't bother my daughter. They used to have a great relationship until recently. I'm not saying my daughter is perfect, although to me she is, but I know she's not a liar. She especially wouldn't lie about something like this. She knows how much I value honesty and transparency, so I trust her completely when it comes to this situation. Ultimately, it doesn't matter if Addison ever tells me her reasons. It's clear she doesn't plan to be honest about what's going on. She hasn't replied to my message, and I find that strange. She's always glued to her phone since she works from home, and her job requires her to stay active on it. Normally, she responds immediately. So, I'm pretty sure she's seen my message and is choosing to ignore me. But honestly, it doesn't matter. All I want is for her to leave my house so I can return and live comfortably again. This hotel situation is far from ideal, and I'll need to go back to work in a couple of days. Update 2. It's been 3 days since I messaged Addison, and today she finally responded. She said she understood why I didn't want to see her in person but insisted it was extremely important for us to meet, so she could explain her reasons for not wanting my daughter at the wedding. Addison claimed this was to ensure I didn't misinterpret her actions, even though we're already separated. She also said she didn't want to be seen as the bad guy because, according to her, her reasons were valid, and she never meant to hurt me. That last part felt ridiculous, considering her actions had already caused significant damage. I replied and made it very clear that I wouldn't meet her in person. I told her that whatever she needed to say could be done via text, and that was the end of it. About an hour later, she sent another message explaining her reasoning. According to Addison, the reason she didn't want my daughter at the wedding was because of something that happened during our engagement party. On the day of the party, my daughter wasn't feeling well. It was my time to have her that month, and I already knew she wasn't 100%. I told her she could stay in her room if she preferred, but she said she didn't want to miss the party, especially since it was being held at our house. Even though she felt unwell, she chose to attend for a little while. After I gave a toast, she excused herself and went back to her room. Naturally, some guests asked about her, but it wasn't a big deal. Apparently, Addison saw things differently. She claimed my daughter stole the spotlight by leaving the party. Addison said she went upstairs to check on her and overheard her laughing and talking on the phone with a friend. To Addison, this meant my daughter wasn't really sick and was pretending to avoid the party. Rather than addressing this with me or my daughter, Addison vented to her sisters, who have a reputation for stirring up drama. What could have been a simple misunderstanding spiraled into a major issue. After that, Addison started distancing herself from my daughter, convincing herself that my daughter secretly resented our engagement and might cause problems in the future. When I read this, I was disgusted. The fact that such a minor, misinterpreted incident led to Addison treating my daughter differently was beyond absurd. I didn't even bother responding to her. Instead, I spoke to my daughter about what Addison had told me. My daughter confirmed she had been talking to a friend on the phone after going upstairs that day. She explained that just because she was laughing and talking didn't mean she felt less sick. It's a perfectly reasonable point. Feeling unwell doesn't mean you can't talk or laugh with someone. Addison's reasoning was flimsy at best. It seems to me that she was insecure from the start and used this trivial incident as an excuse to stop pretending to care about my daughter. Reflecting on our relationship, I've realized there were other red flags. Addison often complained about not getting enough of my attention, especially when my daughter was around. While she showed patience and care with her own kids, she didn't extend the same effort to my daughter. She also had a subtle way of keeping me preoccupied emotionally and with tasks, so I didn't notice how she was isolating me from my daughter. I never connected the dots because I was too invested in the relationship, but now I see how manipulative she was. I'm so grateful I ended things when I did. If staying with Addison meant sacrificing my relationship with my daughter, then it was never worth it. When I received Addison's message explaining her reasoning, I briefly considered responding to tell her exactly how ridiculous and petty she was for letting something so small ruin our relationship. But I quickly realized it wasn't worth my time or energy. For now, I've decided to ignore her until I absolutely have to see her again. Unfortunately, that might be sooner than I'd like because I need to return home to grab my clothes for work. I just hope she finds a place to live soon. While my friends have generously offered to let me stay with them, I'm eager to return to my house and put this whole chapter behind me. Update 3. 2 days after my last post, I went home to grab my clothes and a few other things. I had to move out of the hotel because it was getting too expensive. On my way to a friend's house, I decided to stop by and pick up what I needed. Since I had blocked Addison after her last message, she had no way of knowing I was coming. I figured it was a gamble, but I went for it. Unfortunately, Addison was home when I arrived. She looked upset to see me and clearly wanted to talk. I focused on gathering my belongings as quickly as possible, thinking the faster I finished, the sooner I could leave. However, she didn't make it easy for me to get my things. As I was about to leave, I told her she needed to find a new place to stay so I could move back into the house as soon as possible. I started walking to my car, but she followed me, talking the entire time. She apologized profusely for everything she'd done. She admitted she shouldn't have lied to me and should have been honest from the start instead of blowing the engagement party incident out of proportion. Addison admitted that she had been immature and exaggerated something so minor. She also said her sisters had played a big role in convincing her it was a bigger deal than it actually was. Recently, she'd even had a fight with them because she realized their advice had inadvertently ruined our relationship. That piqued my curiosity, so I asked her what she thought would happen when I showed up at the wedding and saw kids there but not my daughter. Addison said she expected I'd marry her anyway because, in her words, our love should have been stronger than that. I told her that if she truly loved me, she wouldn't have put me in a position where I had to choose between her and my daughter. At that point, she was practically begging for a second chance. Addison promised she would make things work this time, both with me and with my daughter. Hearing that saddened me because it was far too little, far too late. As I reached my car, I told her I understood how she felt, but that this wasn't easy for me either. I explained that walking away from our relationship hadn't been simple, but I had to do it because nothing was more important to me than my daughter. I owed it to her to do the right thing. I could see that Addison was on the verge of tears, and I really didn't want to deal with that. I said a quick goodbye, reminded her to look for a new place, and left. I felt a little like a jerk for handling it that way because seeing her in person was much harder than just messaging her. But it had to be done, and I don't regret it. For now, I'm staying with a friend while I wait for Addison to find a new place. Hopefully, in a couple of weeks, she'll have moved out, and I can start rebuilding my life. I know it'll take some time to recover from all of this, but I'm confident I made the right decision. The one silver lining in this whole mess is how much stronger my relationship with my daughter has become. We're back to where we were before the engagement. She's opening up to me about everything, and there are no secrets between us. Feels great. Today we FaceTimed, and she was so excited talking about her day at school. In that moment, I knew all the stress and heartbreak had been worth it. We're even planning a beach trip in a few weeks. I've invited a couple of my friends with kids her age to join us because I think we both need a break and some fun after the chaos of these past few weeks. It's going to take time, but I'm optimistic about what's ahead. Update 4. Sometimes you don't realize the kind of bullet you dodged until some time has passed. Let me explain what I mean. A friend of mine, who's a lawyer, advised me to serve Addison with a formal eviction notice, partly to ensure everything was handled legally and partly because it had been nearly 2 weeks since I asked her to move out, and she hadn't made any progress. With my friend's help, I filed the notice. Unfortunately, in my jurisdiction, tenants are given 60 days to vacate the property, so there wasn't much I could do except wait. I could have moved back into the house, but I didn't want to live with her for 60 days, especially not after everything that happened. As it turns out, staying away was probably for the best because what ultimately happened was beyond anything I could have imagined. What Addison did to my house a few days after I served her the eviction notice. Addison trashed my house. Thankfully, the damage wasn't as bad as it could have been. Considering how furious she was, I honestly think she might have burned the place down if it weren't for my neighbor. A neighbor heard loud noises and called the police. When they arrived, they found the mess Addison had made and detained her. If not for that intervention, I'm sure she would have caused even more destruction. The good news is that the police escorted her out of the house, which effectively ended the eviction process. The damage she caused also served as proof for the legal action I took afterward. I sued her for all the damages. The lawsuit, I recently won the lawsuit and am now waiting to collect the money she owes me. I've already repaired most of the damage to the house. If she refuses to pay, she'll face even more legal trouble for defying a court order. While the whole ordeal has been stressful, I feel incredibly relieved knowing I avoided a bigger disaster by not marrying her. If this is how she acted now, I can't imagine how much worse things could have been if we were legally tied through marriage. What's next for Addison? The last I heard about Addison, her ex-husband is seeking full custody of their children, using this incident as evidence against her. I'm not saying Addison is a bad mother, but I also can't blame her ex for wanting to keep their kids away from her after all of this. That said, I'm not particularly interested in what happens in her life going forward, unless it directly affects me or my daughter. I consider this chapter closed. Moving forward, this will likely be my final update regarding Addison. I've realized just how fortunate I was to get out when I did. This situation could have been much more expensive and complicated if we had gone through with the wedding. For now, I'm focused on rebuilding my life, my home, and my relationship with my daughter, which remains stronger than ever. My fiancé, 31M, met a woman and has been texting her in ways that makes me uncomfortable. I'm so embarrassed typing this, but here we go. I am a 28F. My fiancé is 31M. We've been together for 8 years. He is an alcoholic and recently he went to a facility to detox and treatment. When he called me after being in there for a few weeks, he told me that he was in a unisex wing, so he's been meeting new friends who are men and women. Fast forward to about a week later when he gets out. He told me about the guys that he's met and the women that he's met. One being a 40-something-year-old woman named Angela who has kids, name changed for safety reasons. He says he likes her because she's like a mother figure. While he's at home, he's on his phone texting more and taking pictures of himself around the house. I ignore it, but I'm suspicious of it. A week later, he says he's meeting up with Angela at the mall to just talk about their recovery plans. Okay, sure, I love that he's making friends. He goes out for about 2 hours. A week after that, it's a few days before Christmas. He tells me that he's invited to a family Christmas party. Same day, he starts drinking and relapses. I check his phone to get the address of the holiday party because I miss his family and would love to see them. I open the text app and it's already in a chat with Angela. Now my curiosity kicks in. I scroll through the messages and see his saying things like, "Do you dream of me? I freaking miss you. You don't know how much I care for you. I'm happy for the first time in a long time and you've been helping with that." I find her Instagram and it has her first and last name. I do a quick Google and find out that she's actually 35. The same day he relapses, I take him to the hospital because he drank too much. I don't bring up the texts, but when I head home for the night after being in the hospital for a few hours with him, he wants me to take his things like wallet and clothes, but to leave his phone there. I get home with his wallet and clothes, then go into his wallet to grab a photo of us that he keeps in there. It's one of my favorite pictures of us. He has a thin wallet that doesn't have a lot of pockets or any zippers, just a flat wallet. Inside of the cash pocket there is our picture, but there are also condoms and 2 love letters, more like poems, that Angela wrote him while they were in that facility. I feel like shit. I've stood by this man for years while his addiction ruins so much. I've lost weight, cried, gone in and out of depression, lost money, lost friends, missed opportunities, lost jobs, lost vehicles, lost my personality for this man. I'm not trying to jump the gun, which is why I stopped snooping. I saw that I needed to see after 3 minutes of looking through the texts, and I wish I didn't see those love letters and condoms in his wallet. I don't want to believe that he would cheat with me after spending maybe a week in a facility with this girl. But thinking back to how he was talking and replaying some conversations, I am also seeing hints. Update. He doesn't have access to his phone because he's at rehab, but I sent a 2-paragraph text to his phone that he will see when he gets out. It will answer his question as to why I'm not picking him up and why it will be one of his family members instead. And yeah, I'm very pissed. I'm very upset. And I'm very, very angry. But I'm working on moving on. Please keep the comments kind. I beat myself up daily already because I've stayed in this situation for so long. I'd much rather hear your stories of how you moved on. And also, I'm going to bed. I'll respond again in the morning. My husband, 28M, can't seem to adjust to being employed and it's giving me 30F. The ick and impacting my mental health. My husband, Mitch, has not had the easiest life, to say the least. When he was 11, he was in a random accident, not his fault, that put him in and out of the hospital for nearly a year and left him significantly physically disabled from there on out. I won't go into specifics because they could be identifying for us, but basically he had to totally relearn to do a lot of things, and he'll have lasting impacts for the rest of his life. He finished high school as a top student and stayed at home for a few years before going away to college, and his income during those early adult years came from disability benefits because there weren't any typical college/high school student jobs that would have been accessible for him. We met when he was a senior in college, and he got his first job about 6 months after graduating. He was 25 at the time, I was 27. He could have stayed on disability, but decided to work instead because disability benefits in our country are basically poverty-level wages. He's a fantastic artist and did commissions occasionally for spending money while living with his parents, but it still wouldn't have been enough to get by on his own. In contrast, I've been very lucky. I started working summer jobs when I was 14, went to college right out of high school, and spent most of my 20s working in an extremely demanding but well-paying field. However, 2 years ago I ended up having to take a leave of absence due to severe burnout from the stress and schedule of my job. I did some soul-searching and, with Mitch's encouragement, decided to leave that career and pursue another field that is much less stressful for me, but also pays far less. I was initially happy with the decision, but now I'm not so sure I made the right choice. Basically, while Mitch is normally pretty emotionally mature in other contexts, his attitude toward work reminds me of a petulant teenager. I've tried to be patient and remind myself that I've had over 15 years to adjust to the realities of working life while he's only had 3 years, but it's not getting any better and it's really starting to impact how I feel toward him and my life choices in general. I don't need him to be super career-driven or anything. I married him knowing that just isn't who he is, and that his art would always be his main passion. And I don't expect him to exactly be overjoyed at the idea of trading half his waking hours for money for the rest of his adult life because, hey, who doesn't wish they could just do whatever they want all the time and not have to worry about it? I just wish he could grow up a little, for lack of a better way to phrase it. I've started to dread being around him during the work week, because I'm not exaggerating when I say that he's in a constant bad mood. We all complain about work sometimes, and a normal amount wouldn't bother me, but this is truly above and beyond. Endless reiteration of the same complaints about how much he hates having a job, heaving dramatic sighs constantly, sulking and pouting and irritable, always finding any possible way to turn any topic into a comment about how working is ruining his life. Most of Sunday is also spent in a funk bemoaning how horrible it is that he has to go in the next day. Sometimes it seriously feels like he thinks the entire concept of having a job was invented just specifically to make him miserable in particular. It truly makes my skin crawl, because at times he sounds like a sullen teenager instead of a nearly 30-year-old man, and it's seriously impacting my attraction to him. I've tried every productive approach I can think of. At first I thought maybe it was just that specific workplace that sucked. The first job in a new field always does, right? So I helped him find and apply for a better one. That worked for about 3 weeks, and then it was right back to the nonstop sour mood. I encouraged and supported him when he decided to drop down to part-time. And again, he was doing better for a couple weeks, and then it was right back to the same old thing, only now with added complaining about how he's making less money. I've started just paying for certain things we need out of my own account instead of our joint one and not telling him, just because I'd rather do that than hear another rant about how much it depresses him to know that thing cost X amount compared to his last paycheck and how unfair it all is. At this point, I'm at my wit's end and have even offered to just go back to my old career so I'd be making enough money for him to quit working entirely. He refused, saying he wouldn't be comfortable with that because he doesn't want anyone judging him for being lazy or scrutinizing how he spends his money. Fair enough, I probably would be resentful of a partner who doesn't work. But would I really resent that more than I'm already resenting the current situation? Part of me almost wants to just do it anyway because sometimes it's truly tempting to be at work doing crazy overtime but making lots of money, instead of at home listening to a grown man pout and sulk about the same thing every day. It's like nails on a chalkboard and it drains my emotional energy completely. One final important thing to note is that Mitch is already in therapy, but that's focused on addressing his PTSD related to the accident that caused his disability. So while I do think talking with someone about this could potentially help, I don't think that can be the priority for a while. With all this in mind, is there any way I can approach this topic with him that might actually get through without just torpedoing our relationship? I'm worried he'll just decide to bottle everything up instead if he thinks he's complaining too much, so I'm really hoping someone can advise a more productive way for me to talk to him about the root issue. I'm codependent. My girlfriend F31 and I am 34 have been together for almost 4 years. This is the first time in my life that I have ever been with someone that genuinely understands and accepts me. I've never been with someone whose touch alone calms my demons. She brings me peace, and I've never really felt that before. I want to be around her constantly. I know that's not necessarily a bad thing, but the feelings I get when I'm not with her are intense and overwhelming. If I'm not working, I'll just sit alone and waste my own time doing nothing. I have no motivation to do much of anything when I'm not with her, so I'll just sit and scroll my phone. I won't do the things I need to do or the things I want to do. When I'm not with her, missing her is such a big feeling that I get distracted from other things that need my attention. I'm on edge. I'm easy to irritate, fidget more. I eat and sleep less. My intrusive thoughts gets worse. Not even just about me, but her too. Like she hasn't texted me back for a couple of hours, and my thoughts go to something bad happened to her / she's gonna die and I'll never see her again. I feel so empty and cold when I'm not in her presence. I don't even really do anything to socialize. Ever. I only have a couple of close friends, and I haven't seen them in months. We have a great relationship. When we are together, everything is a dream. We have deep conversations, we connect on many deep levels, we grow and bond, we constantly laugh, we work through life, and we're good at taking care of our 2-year-old together. I just feel so lost and paralyzed when I'm not with her. I need to break the codependence without hurting our relationship. She's even said she thinks I need to make a couple of friends that I can do things with from time to time, especially if me and her can't be around each other. I don't want to make friends. I just want to be with her. And because of that, I recognize that I need to focus on not being so codependent. I don't even know what I'm trying to do by posting this. I guess thoughts or maybe advice. I don't know. Just do whatever, I guess. My wife of over a decade is speaking to another man. I'll try to keep this short as my emotions are all over the place. My 31M, wife, 31D, of over a decade with whom I have 4 children, has been speaking to another man outside the relationship. I found out the way I feel lost people find out. More possessive of electronics. More distant. That kind of thing. Thing is, I'm not mad. Didn't even shout when I found out. My heart just kinda sank and I was just sad and broken. We've had issues for a while. I thought they were just normal couple issues. But looking back on it, we were both stuck in our own bubbles of pettiness and negativity. It's led us both to feel neglected and less than we are. But in my head, we weren't arguing and she seemed content. I was content because I had her, even if it wasn't perfect. More fool me? She says she's just being honest with herself, which I believe 100%. She says the feelings started dying a couple years ago, but she didn't want to face it and didn't want to hurt me. Now, however, she has found a man half the world away. Says she's in love with him, and she may well be for all I know. I don't know her heart like I used to. This is crushing me so bad. It's given me time for reflection though. And she's right. I've not been the husband I should have been, but I want to be, and I'm committed to put the work in. I've told her all the things I'm willing to do, what I'm willing to change, making a plan of action if how to do it, that I will fight for us until my dying breath. All this is to say she tells me she doesn't know which one of us she wants, that she's scared that I'll stop trying or backslide, that she doesn't want to hurt me or this other man, that she is too scared that she will be hurt in the end. I want my wife back. I want her feeling as happy as when we met. Like she's needed and wanted and cared for and supported and everything else a good husband should be able to make their love feel. But I don't know what more I can do. I feel like I'm fighting a losing fight. I need advice on what more I can do to show her that I am 1000% committed to making us the best us we can be. I need help and advice. Sorry it's long. It's been hard. My sisters, F28, incredibly selfish ways are causing me so much distress. How to make her understand that she has to change. T's been over 10 years, that my sister has shown me time and time again, that she doesn't have the capacity to care for anything other than herself. I've been trying to forge a sisterly relationship, but I feel drained and used after every encounter we have. I have tried to be direct, tell her nicely, how her behavior is very hurtful to me and others. She deflects, becomes angry, yells, and gaslights me to the point I start doubting myself for expecting any decency on her part. My sister is currently 28 years old, but behaves like she has just turned 13. She is very dependent and feels very entitled. She can go ghost for months, but will expect me to drop everything for her when she is in need, completely disregarding how I feel. She has been stranded 3 times overseas, going on trips she can't afford, expecting me to foot the bill when her money runs out. She may say thanks, but doesn't seem grateful. Never does she make any attempts to pay the money that she is owing. Although I was on bed rest because of my difficult pregnancy, she expects me to deal with her self-inflicted issues. She is completely self-absorbed. All conversations revolve around her. Whenever I try to navigate and steer the topic back to me, she doesn't even respond and continues with whatever she wants to say. We live in different countries. When she comes and visits, all she wants is free boarding. She stays in the guest room all day, often waits until we, my husband, and kids, leave before she leaves the room. She hardly interacts with us, unless she is in need of something. I told her that she should stay in a hotel instead, but she insists she does want to spend some quality time. She is messy, doesn't care to tidy after herself, uses all my clothes, makeup, perfumes, finishes them but won't replace it. It's just she is too exhausted. Despite her exhaustion, she manages to go to nightclubs and bars, spend money on drinks. But when it comes to me, she can never spend a penny. She hasn't got me a gift in years. When she visits, she wants to be tended to. When I visit her, she ignores me. She doesn't care too much about her nephews. She only helps out when being asked, but she doesn't go out of her way to spend time/interact with them. When confronted, she becomes angry and defensive. During my wedding, she tried to make it about herself quiet a few times. She was meant to help with tasks with my bridesmaids, but she would whine and whinge, making me feel bad for even expecting anything. I should have been happy she arrived. Couldn't care for a gift card either. Gladly, I was too busy to care, but after the wedding it saddened me to think that not even on my big day she could not try and be less selfish. This Christmas she was thrown out of her friend's apartment and urgently needed a place to stay. She told me I shouldn't expect presents because she is too exhausted from the ordeal. Couldn't even spend time with us. After enjoying Christmas dinner, she went to the guest room. My last straw was that she was leaving without saying goodbye. And when confronted, she played victim as she always does, never holding any accountability. There are many more things that I could mention, but that would make the post too long. Estranged sister of 17 years reached out and I agreed to a phone call. What do we talk about? I'm 36F, and I have not spoken to my sister 35F in 17 years. Long story short, she has BPD and was violent since a young child. We last spoke when she attacked me because she didn't want me in our shared bathroom. She had been physically assaulting me for years at that point, and made my teenage years a living hell because of her behavior. I'm talking police being called to the house multiple times because my parents couldn't calm her down or control her. I suffer from PTSD as a result. Anyways, after that attack, I told I wanted nothing to do with her ever again. Overall, my life has been so much less stressful without her in it. On Christmas Eve, she sent me a very nice and surprising nature text message saying that she would like to reconnect. She loves me, and wished me a Merry Christmas. I was shocked. I fully believed I'd never hear from her again. I talked with my mom about it, and she told me she's been in therapy for a year, and has had a lot of self-growth and is actually working really hard to untangle her past and her part in it. So, I decided to text her back and agreed to catch up over a phone call. Now I'm feeling anxious. I don't want to share too much with her. I'm going through a really rough time after having 2 miscarriages and unsuccessful fertility treatments. I'm feeling emotional and vulnerable. I graduated college, moved across the country, had a bad breakup with a long-term boyfriend, met my now husband, had a destination wedding, married into an amazing family that I'm close with, moved up in my career, bought 2 homes, and now I'm in the darkest time of my life, grieving the loss of my daughter and struggling to get pregnant. She's not been present for any of this, and near gave I with her milestones, which frankly, I know very little about because I barely discuss her with my parents. Also, because of our history, I'm so worried I'll say something that will upset her. She used to get so angry about my milestones because I was one-upping her, like, sorry I turned 16 and got my driver's license first. I'm trying to give her grace, because she was a child who was struggling with a mental disorder and not getting treatment. My parents tried, but she refused all attempts. My mom mentioned that one of her struggles is feeling like I have always rejected her, which is so complicated because my feelings are that I didn't reject her. I was reacting to her behavior by removing myself, or choosing to not play with her or hang out with her whenever she would be mean to me. I'm hoping through therapy she realizes this. Now, my plan is keep things lighthearted and surface level. Talk about my dogs. She loves dogs. Does anyone have advice? Have you ever been in a similar situation? How do you handle a relationship after college? Hi, this is really hard for me to make. I am currently 21F and he is 24M, and I'll be graduating college in December of 2025. I currently go to school in a smaller city about 9 hours away from where I grew up. He's born and raised in that smaller college town. I have been working hard for my degree and will finally graduate after about 4.5 years with 3 total internships under my belt. Woohoo for experience in my field. Most people in my major immediately start a rotational program, meaning 4 different cities every 6 months to give 4 different experiences for different opportunities learned under my major. This is useful to go immediately into a technical management position and basically would allow you to work anywhere without having to start from the bottom. Ever since I started interning, it's been my dream, but recently I began to understood that I wanted to do this. I've brought this up to him time and time again, and we always argue about it. My perspective is that I worked really hard on this degree, and having a program like that under me could really help if I had to settle in the small college town, which I told him I was okay with doing if I got such experience. His perspective is that I'm gone for 2 years, and by the time he'll be able to have a life with me, he will be almost 30. He would be 27. The solution we came up with, because we love each other so much, is that I would stay in the small college town for a year with him and then up and move around with him following me. I do not want that. I do not want him to uproot his life and leave his irrigation career for me, but I also have no opportunities for such a program or gaining the experiences a rotational program would offer me in this small college town. I told him that I'm willing to do the 2-year program and visit him and even become engaged, so he understands I'll come back after it's done, but he refuses to let me go. I feel I will be miserable if I stay in a place I have no opportunities, but not everyone starts off after graduation with a job. My parents and rest of my family live here in the big city, and this would be the place that has the most potential for me, and they are expecting me to come back here after I graduate, even if it's just for the holidays before I, potentially, move to do my rotational program, as I've talked to them about it before. Every time I talk to him about this being something I really want to do, he gets mad and shuts me down. He's been persistent on wanting to start a life with me as I focused mainly on school throughout our whole relationship. As of February 2023, I will have spent $80,000 on my education, student loans, and am required to start paying them off starting as soon as I graduate. He said that if I'm with him, finances will be no issue as he will get his irrigator's license, and in a couple more years, his dad will pass off his multi-million-dollar business to him. I grew up going after things I've wanted. I really wanted his support in doing this program and coming back to town after, but he says he can't wait for me if I do. He said if I give him a year, he'll follow me, but I don't want to be the end of his career. I know he's fully capable of taking care of me for the rest of my life and he loves me, but this is something I've really wanted to do, especially since I worked so hard for this degree. I've always been the one to be motivated to get what I want when I put my mind to it. I just don't want to lose my relationship. He believes that he will come second to my work and he does not want to be put through that, even after I've reassured him that he won't and this rotational program might possibly not be something that ends up not being the right fit for me, so I could really use his support. He still won't budge because he believes he will get dragged around with me. Instead, he told me I can always use my degree at his dad's business, but his business won't give me the experience I really wanted, nor is the business large enough where I can apply my degree fully. I was willing to give him the rest of my life for the 2-year rotational program. I was willing to take that experience and to use it towards his dad's business to allow it to grow in the future. The program being 4 different branches of experience is something I can have to my name in case there's a day he does not want to be with me anymore and I'm 9 hours away from the city I've called home, in a house that belongs to him, left to him by a deceased family member, in a city he grew up in. He has promised me that he would never do that to me, but I've had this happen to family members that say they were promised everything and then moved away from home to almost be isolated and dumped a couple of years later with nothing. I told him this fear and he promises he wouldn't do that to me and that he has better morals than that, and he loves me and wants to spend the rest of his life with me. I'm torn with 3 different decisions. A. Being in a small city for a year working at a place that will do nothing for my career but having to support him for the next 2 years after that during my rotational program. Honestly, wouldn't be bad supporting him. I would be making a lot of money, but I'd have a gap in my resume. I'd have to find a place in said small city to fill it. B. Being in a small city working at his dad's business, learning the ropes and setting up a contract, my idea, to ensure that when the business gets passed on, my name is attached to it as well. This would also include getting married too. My degree wouldn't be used as much, a little bit would get used, but I'm afraid my parents will be disappointed in me that I went to school so far for something and I'm not using it to its full extent. C. I break up with him and do the program full send. Could crash and burn. I'd be working for a large company for essentially the rest of my life to make good money. $80,000 to $125,000. I've been leaning towards filling the year gap with something and then doing my program to come back to the small city, learn the business, and eventually take it over with him. My fear is that my parents will be sad and disappointed for me. We are a very close family. But this would be the best opportunity for me to get both love and a career. I just wish I wasn't put in a spot where I had to make this choice. I wish he could support me in doing the 2-year program as soon as I graduated and coming back. He doesn't see it that way. He said he's been second to school the entire time him and I've been together and he's ready to start his life with me, which I understand. During the internships I have done over the summer, which I do back in the big city, he's always sad that I'm gone. I'm just unsure of what to do and wanted to see some outsider perspectives. I've always believed if he wanted to, he would, but I understand him being a bit older that he's been waiting for someone to start a life with. I do love him very much, but I'm also just kind of hurt that he's not willing to be supportive and let me try. For more background, I'm a first-generation college student. My parents have supported me with paying for my insurance and for my car, as well as my phone. They have also paid for my room to have furniture and be decorated. I also live at home, for free, and work all summer to save to pay for my apartment, gas, utilities, and food during the school year, so I can fully focus on school. I am very grateful for them. My boyfriend's texting makes me lose interest. Can I move past it? Long-time lurker, first-time poster. My F23 boyfriend M24, and I have known each other for 4.5 years, been dating for 2, and have officially lived together for 6 months. We're from different states, so our holidays are always separate since neither of us want to give up spending them with our own families just yet. Not a point of conflict. This is what we both want until we're married/engaged. What is bothering me is that I feel like I essentially lose my boyfriend for however long we're apart. We text pretty much every day and will call on occasion, but our conversations are just deeply unsatisfying. He's decent at responding in a timely manner, actually much better than I am, but it's always the same surface-level conversation remixed. It's like I'm talking to an acquaintance rather than boyfriend of a couple years. I try to mix it up with pictures, different questions, silly banter, etc., but he always manages to loop back to mind numbingly boring, formulaic conversation. This has been an issue in person too, though less so recently, and it's definitely not as egregious as over text. Sometimes it feels/felt like I'm pulling teeth to have an actually meaningful conversation rather than small talk. We've talked about it a handful of times, and it always comes back to he really just doesn't think all that much. These are his words, not mine. I have so many ideas and love exploring deeper meanings slash insights slash connections slash opinions slash etc. and he just doesn't. I feel mean even typing it out, but this is what he's told me. We have good conversations. Don't get me wrong, but always at my behest and not as frequently as I would choose. Over text, this are virtually non-existent. Even our normal level of IRL connection is almost completely lost over text and even over the phone. When we get back in person though, it's like all of the love floods back until we inevitably have to travel separate from the other for whatever reason. If it's just the hormones in person and comfort of being with him that get me back to being interested or if it's actually real. Feels pretty damn real. I love this man and I want to be his wife one day. But I've been so disinterested in even trying to talk to him this past week. I have like 3 boring texts from him and it feels like a chore to respond. How would you reignite some better conversations or even flirty texting beyond, what VE you been up to today? I, 25F, am worried about my sister's, 20F, new relationship. How do I approach telling her my sister, 20F, has been dating her BF, 20M, for 7 months? The longer their relationship goes on, the more red flags I'm seeing in terms of boundaries and possessiveness over her. I initially got tipped off after he made a comment that I'm stealing her from him when I called, and they were together a couple months ago. I tried to chalk it up as a bad joke, but I'm home visiting for the holidays and I'm truly blown away by the dynamics of this relationship. Since I've been home, he is constantly calling her nonstop or texting her if they are not together. We dropped him off the other night and was planning to watch a movie at home, which he heard us talk about. And as soon as we got into bed, he started FaceTiming her nonstop till she picked up. He did the same thing yesterday and called/texted her nonstop while we were out getting our nails done. It's like even if he's not physically present, he's still in the room with us because of this constant need for communication. They spend all their free time together. My sister doesn't go to school. She no longer has her own friends. My sister is newly diagnosed with bipolar disorder and anorexia. So she's an extremely vulnerable person right now, which makes me even more worried she's dating someone who's controlling like this. I'm not proud of it, but I know my sister isn't being honest with me when I try to check in. So I looked through some of their texts last night as a last resort to confirm what I was suspecting before I start WW3 by talking to her about this. He guilt trips her if she doesn't answer his texts fast enough. He will say she's mistreating him or doesn't love him. This is almost a daily argument between them. She was out with friends one night. He verbatim said he wanted to know her every move and said she had to send him photos of what she's doing. He has shown up to places when she's out with her friends unannounced to pick her up. He keeps tabs on her every move, up to her phone battery, and questions why her battery dropping so fast. If she's not on her phone, texting him back. He even made a comment about how it was bad for her to be around me so much. He seems controlling and possessive and he's alienating her from friends and family. He doesn't respect her personal relationships that don't involve him or his family. And I don't think my sister would engage with this if she was in her right state of mind. I think she's focusing on this relationship instead of her own recovery and well-being. I want to talk to her about my concerns, but I'm worried about her becoming defensive and causing her to cling to this relationship even more. I truly don't even care about her BF, but I want my sister to be happy and healthy again, and I don't think this relationship is conducive of that. I'm worried this is the beginning stages of a serious problem. Any advice on how to approach this convo with her would be appreciated. F20. I am having a falling out with my boyfriend, M18. I'll dedicate this paragraph to pretext. My mom lied 8 months ago about some things his mom said that him sleep around, and being invasive into our sex lives, at least I think she did. I broke up with my boyfriend for about a month because his mom was being invasive in our relationship and reading his messages, not allowing us to see each other more than once a week, and dictating when and how I talked to him. I was also influenced by my mom that said those things about me. She, my mom, then kicked me out of the house saying I was on drugs. I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, anxiety, and depression, and then admitted a month later that she was actually addicted to pills and had a freak out when she saw me taking my daily medication for pain. I have to use a wheelchair occasionally because of the pain from walking. In the month that I did not speak to her, she told everyone but close family that I was addicted to pills and a deadbeat addict. I have a 3.8 GPA in college full-time and I work. Nobody believed her except for a few, but people told me about what she was saying. This is important later to today. I am repairing my relationship with my mother cautiously by seeing her at family functions or in public. She apologized and said that she wants to be a family and even helped me pay off some very bills from where my dog had a stroke. Anyways, recently I get a text from my boyfriend saying that his mom said her hairstylist, my mom's ex-employer, said that my mom said I was on drugs. This is important to me because if she did, my attempts to repair our relationship failed and I need to make a decision like cutting her off. I know my mom's ex-employer and I immediately called her asking if she knew if my mom even had a daughter and she said no. I politely said thank you and hung up, even though she was oddly frustrated with me. This was 3 minutes before my shift and I am walking into work stressing about this whole situation and not knowing what to think or who to believe. A short while later I get a call from my boyfriend while I'm helping a customer, and when I answer I hear his mom yelling from across the room. She was demanding that I come to her house after my shift, ending at 11 p.m., to communicate about something, but I couldn't make it out over the music and noise at work. Asked my boyfriend, what was that about? And he said our relationship depended on me coming to his house after work. I kept asking why. He kept dodging it. I said it freaked me out that his mom was yelling over the phone and I really wanted to know. Dodged it. I then told him that I'm not going to come to his house late at night if I don't even know what we will discuss. He then told me it was about what happened today and that everything was okay, we just needing to communicate. I agreed to come. For the main shit show, I nervously come to his house at past 11 p.m. after working all evening to find his mom sitting down on a chair like Dr. Phil. He comes in and doesn't say a word. He actually did say a word the entire time. His mom just kept saying about how irresponsible I was to call my mom's ex-employer and how I terribly damaged their relationship. She said she does not know this woman personally except that she does her hair well. She said that my boyfriend did not mention that she did not want to be involved in drama, and was upset that I didn't wait longer or contact her first before talking to her. I defended myself and said that I was only given so much information at a horrible time that would affect my entire relationship with my mother the night before Christmas. I was going to my family Christmas in the morning and I needed to know whether or not she actually said that. She kept interrupting me anytime I tried to defend myself by repeating that I was irresponsible and adults don't act that way, and etc. etc. She just was trying to lecture me. She got upset and louder anytime I have my piece or opinion and defended myself. I felt cornered and honestly scared. My boyfriend say there and put me in this situation knowing I live in another town and it's really inappropriate to demand I come late at night. Yet he wouldn't even look at me. I apologized for how my decision affected her and I told her that was never my intention. I actually apologized multiple times over and over because she thought that unless I agreed that what I did was wrong, I didn't understand. I simply stood my ground. Then she went into a tangent about how horrible of a mother I have and blah blah. I was tired, nervous, scared, and I could feel myself spacing out. I was respectful and let her get her frustration out and just said, yeah, basically. Then it finally ended. She said, do you need to go home? I just went to the restroom. Surprise! Anxiety did its thing and I had a panic attack. I felt so out of control and scared and my boyfriend had to get my anti-anxiety medicine to calm me down, which also puts me to sleep. I had to take a nap before going home. When I woke up at 2 in the morning I was still crying, but not panic level. He told me to apologize to his mom for having a panic attack. So I do. I make an awkward apology and go home. Christmas. I get to see my brother for the first time in a long time and it was amazing. I got along with my mom and we honestly had so much fun. But my boyfriend, who is now on vacation across the country, is acting weird over text. When I ask, he says he doesn't think I understood the point of the communication session at all. I finally told him how I felt, how uncomfortable and scared I was, how I felt cornered and vulnerable, and how I tried my best to remain calm while she sort of laid into me and my mother and belittled me as an adult. I told him about how it was inappropriate to demand I come to his house at 11 p.m. I told him how I felt that it wasn't communication if I'm not allowed to express mine. How every time said anything I was interrupted and it drug on longer. He said, well, you didn't listen, you argued, and I said, well, communication is a two-way street. I apologized to you, Mom, multiple times, yet I disagree with her on that one thing. He expected that I let her lay into me and just say, yes, ma'am, and go home. He then said, well, if you want to be mature about this and move on so I can talk to you, that would be nice. I said, I want some space. I could hear in the way he was talking that he was relaying everything I said to his mom, and he sent me a picture of their rental car, which enforces that idea because he was in the passenger seat and she was driving. I talked to my dad and he says dump him, but it's a day after Christmas and we have been together for over a year. My dad said that I did well defending myself and I never should have agreed to go to her house, and that he should not have put me in that situation then switch up on me when he goes on vacation. I feel worried that I messed everything up and I shouldn't have defended myself. And I feel kind of betrayed that he led me into that position and then gets upset that I didn't just listen. He has been mean and disrespectful towards me in the past, which affects my dad's opinion towards him, and he has also directly disrespected him. Sorry for the novel how best can I navigate this situation. I, 21F, want to apologize to an ex, 22M, but am currently seeing someone I've been dating, my current boyfriend, 21M, for about 6 months, but we've been seeing each other for around 8. Just before I started seeing him, I ended things with a guy, 22M, when things started to get more serious. About a month or two after I ended things, I was with my boyfriend when I got a message from X, which basically went along the lines of, hey, I'm sorry, I haven't messaged, I just needed some time. How are you? I was with my BF when I opened this and he responded for me something childish like, she's moved on or something like that. I didn't really do much about it and the X unadded me after that. The past couple weeks I've been thinking about that interaction and how embarrassed I am by it. I've been feeling guilty about how I acted and letting my BF send that message when the guy was nothing but nice to me, and I've been considering reaching out to X to apologize for this, a simple message like, hey EX, this is so out of the blue, but I just wanted to apologize for the last messages sent between us. You probably don't even remember, but you reached out after things ended and someone else replied instead of me, and it was just a childish response, and I've been feeling really gross/guilty about it and how I let them send that and didn't apologize to you. You were really sweet to me, so it feels 1000x worse. That's not the type of person I am, and hopefully it wasn't as rude as I remember, but I truly feel so bad and I'm really sorry for that. Hope you're doing well. Only thing is, I don't think my boyfriend would take this well, and might believe it's me trying to rekindle things with the ex, when in reality I just want him to know I'm sorry for the message. The ex is also mutual friends with someone my BF works with, and am a bit anxious that this would get back to him. This all went down around 6-7 months ago, so it has also been a while. Is it okay to send this message or should I just leave it? Me 22F have this situation with my 23M BF, struggling with trust I seed and overthinking. Any advice? Hi everyone. I hope you're all doing well. I've been feeling really sad since yesterday, and I'm not sure if it's because I have a need for constant control or something else. I need help figuring this out because I don't want to seem crazy or risk losing him over this. After a small incident, I started seeing everything in a negative light, and it's making me feel overwhelmed. For context, we work together, and yesterday was his last day at work. These past few days with him have been amazing. However, something happened that's been bothering me. Yesterday, a girl sent him a follow request on Instagram. He told me she used to be interested in him but is now in a relationship with his friend. At first, I thought she was already following him, so I didn't care because I trust him. While we were at work, he showed me the notification and I asked him if he was going to accept it. He said no and even told me, you'll see, I have 18 followers. If it goes up to 19, then you'll know I accepted her, but I won't. I replied that I wouldn't check because I trust him. But later, out of curiosity, I checked anyway. And what did I see? He did follow her. I don't want to bring it up to him because I trust him. I just didn't like the situation, especially since he was so sweet and caring today. He brought me a big box of chocolates because my period is coming and even bought me lunch. But this one thing really hurt me. I've also been overthinking things since then. For example, this morning, he told me he was going to play a game I love. But when I used to talk about playing it together, he said he wasn't interested anymore. Today, his friend suggested they play, and he agreed instantly. That made me feel sad and like I'm not special enough to him. I'm tired of being so affected by these things. I don't want to be a burden or make him feel like I'm trying to control him. But I also don't know how to stop feeling this way. How can I work on myself and improve? If it's relevant, but he has a lot of group of friends, he plays with them and stuff. I don't have a lot and my friends don't like video games and stuff. I have online people who I barely know. Should I stay or go? Hi all, I've got to a crossroads in my new relationship. I 39M need to decide if I can continue with my 32F girlfriend. We've been dating for 6 months and when we are together it's really good and we work well together. The thing that's got us to breakpoint is her children 8F and 10M. The boy especially, he is violent, controlling and constantly fighting against her, doesn't do anything except what he wants to do and basically destroys everything in his path. His dad is a deadbeat druggie who doesn't care at all. I've got 3 of my own children and I really don't think I've got the headspace to deal with it all. Should I cut my losses and move on even though it will really hurt her as this is her biggest fear? How do I tell my friend her unhealthy relationship is going nowhere? Or is it even my place to? I posted this yesterday but didn't realize it was Christmas and it got no responses, so I'm reposting. Here's my dilemma. My friend Tammy has been dating her boyfriend Joe for almost 10 years now. They're both in their mid-30s. I really don't like Joe and this whole post is the reason why. For the first 7 years of their relationship, Joe refused to acknowledge it. He wouldn't admit to being in a relationship, he wouldn't talk to her in public, never posted about her. His page said he was single. They would go on vacation together and neither would post any pictures or anything about it. Tammy was literally also forbidden from talking about it. I knew and so did a few of our other friends, but we had to pretend we didn't know if we happened to see them together for the longest time. She mentioned to me a few times during this period that it would upset her when we were with a group and everyone was coupled up or if it was just girls and they were talking about their partners, but she just had to stay silent. One time I saw them at a grocery store and if I didn't know them, I would have never known they were together. They were on opposite ends of the aisle. Then he walked by without even looking at her or acknowledging us when she stopped to say hi to me for a minute. On top of all this, he just isn't nice to her. They have the exact same job, but he acts like her job is insignificant and that he's so much better than her. He doesn't support her or her career in any way. He's mean to her and one time she started crying when my boyfriend called me beautiful in front of her because Joe never compliments her. He also has cheated on her at least twice that we know of, most recently about a year ago. The first time years ago, his way of proving loyalty was to post one picture of them together and then never again after that. She's also called me while sobbing and locked in her bathroom after a fight multiple times, but refusing to tell me what exactly happened, so I'm not 100% sure how bad it's gotten. She stays with him during all of this craziness because for the last literal 5 years he's been promising. A proposal is coming, but it's been 5 years. At first she got really excited and started looking at venues and stuff, then after a while she'd start losing some of the excitement and he'd mention it again, get her excited and it would start over. I have a strong feeling it's never going to happen, but he keeps stringing her along. She wants to be married and start a family, and I'm worried it's about to be too late for her. A lot of our friends feel the same way and over the years we've all tried talking to her. But she just defends him and their relationship and says it's not that bad. She gets really upset if it gets brought up, so everyone has kind of just stopped trying to talk to her about it. I have experience with an abusive relationship in the past, so I know sometimes relationships can be hard to leave and I'm trying to just be around when she needs support, but it's really hard to watch this as a friend. Would it be worth bringing up again? So how can I do it? Also, we're friends but we're not like besties, so I'm not really sure if it's my place to be the one to keep mentioning it. Does anyone have any advice? How do I, 30SF, tell my mom, 60SF, that I'm bailing on visiting my grandmother, 90SF? I've known all these people my entire life. My mental health is failing pretty hard. I'm on a work trip, but I'm very likely going home soon, finishing up a few things, and working with a friend to go to inpatient treatment. It hasn't been a very good year. On top of family issues, I worked for months solid and got very little time at home. A former partner of mine succumbed to schizophrenia violently and has since apparently been showing up to my house, and I've been having physical health flare-ups. I already struggled with mental health and this year has been more than I can take. My grandmother isn't having a very good year either. My grandfather died a pretty horrific death, and since then she's had health issue after health issue. She needed to be moved across the country due to a lack of funds and a toxic situation locally. She's in a new place after living on the same block she was born on her entire life. She's also moved in with my mother, who is honestly a severely unempathic person. It's necessary as she's fixing the physical issues. My grandma wasn't getting care with our other relatives, but completely ignoring how upsetting this uprooting is and how much my grandmother is grieving her husband. I made a promise to my mom that I would come visit in a few weeks, but honestly, I can't. My parents know about none of the health issues I'm currently facing. As stated before, my mom has a severe lack of empathy and discussing personal problems with her is difficult as best. She's only visited me twice since I turned 18, once because I needed surgery and couldn't find a friend, and asks me almost nothing about my personal life. She has to ask me my address to mail me anything. She's still referring to my boyfriend by the name of a guy I almost dated 10 years ago. She doesn't usually notice it. I don't message for weeks at a time. She's also slightly thinks that mental health isn't real, so I'm not super excited to tell her I'm bailing on a promised visit to grandma for mental health treatment. Grandma, for the record, very much believes mental health isn't real, but I give her a break because she's 92. I need to tell her something because she's supposed to be picking me up at the airport in a few weeks and expecting me to stay for a month. She tried to Baker act me the last 2 times I brought up my mental health struggles. So that's out. I don't even want the facility communicating with her, and I'm taking my time on this to pick one that will not provide her with information. I also can't tell her about any of my actual problems on top of the failing mental health, because she'll immediately pick apart what was my fault and how I should have done better, which is something I can't handle at the moment. But I also can't afford to go for that long. How the hell do I navigate this? How do I, 32M, deal with my feelings towards aromantic GFS, 30F, previous FWBS? About a year and a half ago, I, 32M, met this girl, 30F, on a date. We clicked pretty well, and decided to see each other just a few days after once more, since she was going to be out of the country for about 3 months afterwards during summer. She is from another country than the one we both live in, and she has a lot of freedom in her work, so she goes back home for longer periods during summer and around Christmas. During this time, I leave her to enjoy her summer, and she leaves me to enjoy mine, so we don't talk much. When she gets back, she asks me if I want to meet up again, and I agree. We quickly start spending a lot of time together, and feelings start developing from both sides. A month or 2 in, she tells me that she is aromantic, but that she, for the first time in her life, is having what she thinks is romantic feelings towards me. I'm initially a bit shocked as I've never met someone like this before, but am overall happy considering what she is telling me. My connection between love and sex is very strong. Without feelings for someone, sex has always been pretty terrible for me. For her, they don't have anything to do with one another. Sex is just sex, and love is love. I have no interest in being in an open relationship, and she would be okay with it, but she's also fine with us being monogamous, which is something we talked about early on and have been since then. In her past, she has had one boyfriend around 10 years ago, and after that she has had several FWBS. These FWBS that she has had have in most cases gone back to normal friendships since we started seeing each other. They're not people she regularly hangs out with, but she made it clear early on in the relationship that she will not stop being friends with someone because of me. And this is where I struggle. Of course, I don't want her to stop being friends with someone, but I have a really hard time knowing she is spending time with someone who she has previously been having sex on a regular basis with. And it's not that I don't trust her. I actually do, which is a very big thing, seeing as I've been cheated on in multiple past relationships. But at the same time, something keeps scratching my brain saying, what if? Whenever she hangs out with someone she has a sexual past with. And I really wish this didn't happen as, again, I do trust her, and there has never been any signs at all that she would have broken that trust. We've had one big argument since we started seeing each other, which was a few months into the relationship. She had had a trip planned which she booked during the summer shortly after we met for the first time. The tough thing for me was that this trip was for a week with this guy that she was FWB with up until she met me. And seeing how the situation was during summer, when they spent some time together and were having sex, they had booked lodging together so they were going to sleep in the same bed. This made me very uncomfortable, especially given my past where I've been cheated on in multiple relationships, as previously mentioned. She understood my feelings, promised me that nothing would happen, but also clearly stated that she cannot be in a relationship with someone who will not let her keep her friends, and that I have to accept that. They are and still will be friends. Since this happened, there have been a few more times where she has met up with friends that she has a sexual history with, either alone or in a group setting. And every time it makes me feel bad. In a few months' time, a friend of hers and his girlfriend are coming to visit for a few days in the city where we live. They are in an open relationship, and my girlfriend has done things with this guy in the past. His girlfriend was in the picture back then and knows about this. The idea that I have to hang out with him makes me uncomfortable, and I don't know how to bring this up with her. My mind just thinks about them being together and it makes me feel nauseous. Most of all, I just wish I wouldn't feel this way. I wish I could just see it as she does, that they used to do sexual stuff, but then they've gone back to being only friends. But I don't know how. How can I deal with these feelings? Hello, is it right to return the gifts for my family because they called in sick on my Christmas plans? Throw away because my sister knows my main. Also, sorry about any bad grammar. I'm on my phone and English is not my first language. I've also posted in Ada because I'd love more insight on it. For this Christmas, I had planned for my mother and sister to come over to the sauna I work at so we can spend the Christmas together, as I had to work the morning shift. The plan was for them to come around lunch, and once I'm done, we would all go and eat something in the restaurant belonging to the sauna. This invitation came from a place of dread regarding Christmas or any holidays for that matter. Holidays with my small family have always been tense, frustrating, and forced. Now that I moved out, I didn't feel the need to put myself in that situation. Regardless of that, however, I do still love them. Holidays wasn't the only thing my mother would strong-arm us into, and I would give in just to keep the peace. A geek doormat. I'm working on it. I simply thought it would be nice to be somewhere else for a change and simply eat and enjoy ourselves instead of cooking and cleaning constantly. I wanted this year to be different. I bought my mom this beautiful ring she has shown us a while back. I picked the aromas for the sauna, asked nicely if I could weigh in, reserved us a table, and even got them a coupon so they don't have to pay the entrances. I've also got other gifts for my sister and mother. The ring is the most important part in this story. I've told them all the rules and FKK limitations the sauna has. I've repeated myself a million times, and it's never been a problem until Christmas Day. On Christmas Day, around 1 a.m., my mother told me she doesn't feel comfortable anymore with the sauna attire. My sister initially told her to get over herself and that they promised, but she decided to fuck up my night and then call in sick in the morning on me, telling me she's sick, she doesn't feel right, etc., etc. Fucked up my day, but she's always been a disappointment of a mother. My money was on my sister still coming because she expressed she wished to spend Christmas with me. However, she ended up piggybacking on my mother's excuse, first saying there would be no parking lots, drive as long, around 45 minutes, and lastly, that she's sick also and let's do this another time. I said fine because I didn't want to get upset at work, but I was upset. I was really upset. After work, I drove home sad, and when I saw my boyfriend, the only words out of my mouth were "nobody came," and burst into tears I didn't know I was building up. I want to make it clear at this point that my mother and my sister were not really sick. It was just an excuse because they were too lazy. My sister spent the whole day playing her shitty computer games, and mom just scrolls TikTok endlessly, brain rotting herself. This excuse has never been viable to me, and if I ever dared to skip a big holiday or birthday, I'd get to hear about how I let them down for a month afterwards. My sister has yet to apologize, throwing my mother under the bus. And my mother realized that I'm not answering her anymore. She's been blowing up my phone with crying emojis and empty apologies. Would I be the would I be overreacting if I sent their gifts back and used the coupon I got on myself? That ring was 120 euros, of which my sister should have sent me half but never did. It was my BF's idea. Such an idea would have never crossed my doormat mind, but I actually find myself liking it. I believe it would be a strong statement if they ever ask about it and I get to say I've sent it back. I'm also not speaking to them as of now and leaving them on read because I really cannot bring myself to listen to the bullshit. Hello, a little edit. I'm in my mid-20s and studying as well as working. My mother is in her 50s and my sister is a couple of years younger than me but still in her 20s. She's always been my little sister and her transgressions went without consequences, but this time I feel like there wasn't space for such a grace. I try to put myself in her shoes, and if she'd ever planned something for us/me and my mom didn't come, I'd go there no matter what. Through rain or snow, anything less than a broken bone or serious sickness would be not good enough to cancel. I believe I am worth more than the grace a random acquaintance would get. My girlfriend, 27F, chose to go to work instead of support me, 29M. During my mom's funeral this year, my mom was diagnosed with terminal cancer and unfortunately Shell passed away at the beginning of the month. We arranged the funeral and it was for last week. I've been with my girlfriend for just under 4 years. We were talking about the funeral plans and I assumed my girlfriend would be coming with me, but she said she can't as she has a presentation at work and has to make sure work gets handed over before she's off over Christmas. I asked if she was serious and pointed out she's entitled to a day of compassionate leave at most places, but she said she can't really take it since she has work to do. I asked if she was seriously prioritizing work over supporting me, and she said she couldn't help needing to hand things over. I walked away after she said that. The day of the funeral came and she went to work while I was preparing for the funeral. She just said she hopes it goes okay and she'll be thinking of me. The funeral goes as well as it could have, but it stood out to me that my siblings and other relatives had their partners for support, whereas I didn't. When I got home, my girlfriend asked how it went and I just told her we were over. She said I shouldn't be punishing her for needing to work, but I just said I want a partner who actually supports me, and it's clear she doesn't. She again said I was punishing her, but I just told her we were done. She said I was being too irrational and should not be making big decisions and shouldn't be punishing her for working. Does anyone have any advice on how to approach the situation or any other perspectives on it? My husband quit his job randomly. Would anyone else have made the same decision? I'm 33F and my husband 38M. Together. 12 years. I'm not mad and I understand his anger. He's normally so stunted when it comes to making big decisions that he usually ends up not making one at all, and I have to step in. He worked at a place which I said I always wanted to eat at, so on his days off we went there, and when we sat down, his coworker pulled him to the side, and after some discussion between them, they were under the impression that he was due in within 1 hour to do a shift until 10 p.m. We'd arrived at roughly 11 a.m. My husband takes pictures on his phone of the timetable before he leaves. So he checked and went to show his coworkers that he wasn't in that day. The coworker walks away and comes back with the timetable in hand and shows it to him. My husband originally wasn't due in work. He was scheduled to be off, but someone had switched his shifts around and crossed out his time off. They hadn't informed him, and the timetable was a sheet of paper kept at the restaurant. So there was no way he could have known. At this point, he lays out that he had booked time off, that he was scheduled to be off on the timetable, and that the timetable has been changed. He even had proof with the original unedited timetable pictures on his phone. The other staff weren't happy about that, as if he wasn't going to cover that shift then they'd need to replace him with 2 staff members for the shift as he has 2 roles, and some of the staff who were there wouldn't be able to go home as scheduled. I would say that this isn't my husband's problem, and the blame would fall on whoever changed the schedule and made no attempt to seek confirmation from other people. My husband told me that we were leaving and why, and then we left to go somewhere else to lunch. They called him to ask where he'd gone, and he told them that he quit. Once we got out of the door, however, he told me that he was never going back there. I'm just wondering if you guys would be likely to quit in this scenario. Would you expect someone to quit? Even for me, I think I would have just refused to come in due to not being scheduled originally, and if they fired me, so be it. Make or break boundaries in sex, so I've been looking for a casual relationship with one single person. I don't have time for a committed relationship and wanting casual sex, but with someone I can trust who wants the same thing. I female met someone male, online, who's 15 years older, a dad and businessman. He doesn't have much time, so agreed it was a good arrangement. We went on our first date and hit it off. I'm super attracted to him. I'm also young, beautiful, and in great shape, and he's older but also handsome and in great shape. I could only imagine the sex being great. Naturally, we started discussing boundaries in bed. We agreed on boundaries and protected sex as I'm off birth control. Then he asked me if I'd been tested. I have very recently. I asked him and he said it's been over a year and he wasn't going to do it until next year because of his doctor being on leave. He's also been having a casual relationship with someone for the past couple years. In that case, I said I was not going to do oral BJ on him unprotected for the first couple times we had sex. He told me in that case we won't meet up because it's non-negotiable for him to receive unprotected oral sex even the first time. We're disagreeing on this, and I'm disappointed because I really liked him, personality and physically. We had a lot of chemistry and I'm bummed. Am I being the asshole by setting boundaries and asking for either testing or protection for oral sex? Is it being overly cautious or is it a healthy boundary? Asterisk, I have never had a casual relationship or ONS in my life, so I don't know what typical protocol is for these things. Are y'all just having unprotected oral sex as of the first time without testing? My boyfriend, 26M, went too far with his actions and words with me, 25F. My boyfriend, 26M, and I, 25F, have been together for 2 years. 2 months ago, we agreed to consider marriage if things improved in our relationship. However, recently, he made some unexpected and extreme demands that have left me feeling unsettled. He told me he wants me to change completely. He asked me to remove the tattoo on my shoulder, quit my job as a primary teacher, and throw away all my clothes that he deems inappropriate. He doesn't want me to go out with my friends at all, and if I want to see my family, it must be during the day, and I'd have to prove it by sending him pictures. Also insists that I shouldn't dress up when I go out and has forbidden me from wearing eyeshadow or lipstick. Strangely, he's fine with me wearing heavy makeup during sex, which I find disgusting by the way. He even made me delete my small IG account. I had only 25 people, all of whom were family members. On top of that, he's asked me give up sports altogether, including weightlifting, badminton, and running. All of these were asked in a single day. It is overwhelming and difficult for me to process. I just can't process this. Another thing happened. On my way home from the gym today, my boyfriend called and started talking about 2 women. He was overly complimentary, saying they were respectable, chaste, beautiful, and the perfect example of femininity. Then, he said he doesn't see me that way. Honestly, I reacted strongly because I felt oppressed, not jealous. His words made me feel overwhelmed. I ended up crying a lot and shouting at him so much that I had to pull over the car. I even hit myself. I broke my nails and cut my finger and it was bleeding. My head hurts a lot and I have redness on the side of it because I hit it hard. He always gets me to this point. I don't remember exactly what happened for some reason. I don't know how long I was crying and screaming, but I feel like I'm still in my car collapsing even though I'm silent at home. I'm hurt. Now, I try to avoid arguing with him because, how do I deal with this situation? I, 35F, just spent my first Christmas with my fiancé's 31F family. How can I walk things back to doing holidays separately? Lila and I have been dating for 2 years, engaged and living together for 1 of them. She's extremely close with her family and we fly out to visit them probably 3 to 4 times per year at least. I've always really liked them, and from everything she and they have told me, they like me a lot too. But we come from very different backgrounds, and after this first longer holiday visit, I find myself feeling like I'm too uptight and high maintenance to consistently do major holidays with them going forward. For context, I grew up a big coastal city as part of a small and very type A family. My brother is estranged and my mother passed away when I was in my teens, so it's really just my dad and I now. Lila's family lives in the small rural town where she grew up, and she's the only one who's ever left the area. Her brothers and sister all live within an hour's drive. They're unpretentious and down-to-earth folks, which is in some ways a breath of fresh air compared to how I was raised. But I've realized that as terrible as this makes me sound, I kind of hit my limit with some aspects of it after about 3 nights. We're here for 8 this time. There's obviously a lot to unpack as to why, but a few of the big reasons. 1. I'm very allergic to cats. And they have 4, one of which used to be Lila's until we moved in together. Even on the maximum dose of Claritin and 2 rounds of allergy shots, I'm usually completely stuffed up and miserable after a couple days here, especially since their standards of clean are a lot more relaxed than mine. The obvious solution to this one would be stay in a hotel. But we've tried that and all it did was quadruple the price of the trip and make Lila sad that we were missing out on some of the late-night family time. It didn't even help my allergies much because we ended up spending so much time over there during the day anyway. There's not a lot else to do in town, and they're big homebodies besides. 2. I'm a vegan, which they have a lot of trouble accommodating since they're absolutely meat and cheese in everything types. I try to eat some animal products while I'm here so as not to be a burden, but after so long they tend to really upset my stomach even in small quantities. I've tried offering to buy/prepare my own ingredients and meals, but I can tell this rubs the family the wrong way, since food is a big love language for them. They try their best, they just really struggle with figuring out how to have options around for me, especially since it's easy to forget to check the ingredients on things like seasoning mixes and sauces. 3. Their biggest pastimes are watching or talking about sports and playing cards, neither of which I did much of growing up. I've made an effort to learn more about both over the past few years so I can participate, but I still have trouble keeping up. All in all, after about day 4 of this trip, I found myself feeling like the villainous, high-maintenance big city fiancé who's clearly wrong for the sweet small-town main character and gets dumped halfway through the movie, from every Hallmark Christmas film ever. Lila's family was, as always, extremely welcoming and kind to me, but I'm obviously still in my head. And beyond all that, maybe the biggest thing is that this is the first Christmas where I've chosen a partner's family over spending the holiday with my dad, and it felt horrible. He put on a brave face about it, but each time I've talked with him this week, I can tell how sad and lonely he is. The idea was originally to invite him to spend Christmas with Lila's family too starting next year, but my dad is even more of an uptight nerd than I am. He was an anesthesiologist and basically only knows how to interact with other introverted science-Y types. And if I felt this out of place, I can't imagine how much more uncomfortable he'd feel in this setting. And even though my family is so small compared to Lila's, the idea of never spending a Christmas in my family home again actually makes me really sad. More so than I expected it would. All this to say, I'm trying to figure out how to pitch the idea of going back to doing Christmases separately to Lila, without sounding like a horrible snooty ingrate. I was considering suggesting alternating whose family we do Thanksgiving with so that we still spend a major holiday with each other's families regularly, but just going to our respective hometowns at Christmas. We don't want children, so this wouldn't create a who gets to see the grandkids issue in the future. But then again, how can I even bring this up when she's so close with them? Even today she was getting teary because she's sad we only have 2 days left before we leave. Meanwhile, I'm crawling up the walls. I just don't know how to approach this without making her and her family feel totally rejected. And I'm at a loss here. Should I, 22F, break up with my boyfriend, 22M, who didn't buy me a Christmas present? My boyfriend and I, 22M and 22F respectively, have been together for 13 months. This is not a new relationship, and we've spent Valentine's and both our birthdays together. He comes over to my house every other weekend, if not every weekend, and spends time with me and my parents since I still live at home. For his birthday, I got him Lego, which he loves, and my parents got him a jumper. For Christmas, I got him an aftershave and my parents got him a jacket. Bearing in mind, this adds up to about 200 to 250 pounds worth of gifts. For my birthday, he took me out for afternoon tea, which was lovely and yes, a bit expensive, £80 moving to this Sunday. He came over and I gave him his presents. He looked at the oven and went, "Oh, that looks lovely. I'm so excited to eat it." Okay, fine, maybe he was going to give me my presents a little later? Nope. He plopped a small jar of jam his mum made on the table and told me and my mum to enjoy it with a cheese board. Me and my mum just looked at each other and I could tell she was disappointed too. I was embarrassed, ashamed, and disappointed. I spoke to him about it in the evening after he left, and I'm sure he could tell something was up because I acted cold and distant because I just wasn't happy at all. He sent over cards in the mail after that and started trying to rectify his actions by looking for gifts for me, but I just feel it's too late. I told him I felt like I'm worth more than nothing. It's not as if he doesn't have a job, he does. So he can't afford anything at all, and I would even have been happy with something he personally made, not his mum. I feel like I should break up with him, because I genuinely just feel like I'm worth more than nothing, and this feeling won't just go away if he gets me a present. I told him he could have literally got me a pencil if it meant there was thought behind it, and he got me a present, but him scrambling to find something now he's realized he has fucked up just isn't going to cut it. Am I overreacting? Is this something that can be fixed, or am I right in thinking this way? Sorry if this is long-winded or confusing, but I'm just not in the right headspace. Edit. I missed out some context here because I'm forgetful and just everywhere in terms of emotions. He knows already how my love language is gifts or acts of love. We've spoken about it. I feel generally disrespected by him not getting me anything because he bought everyone in his family a gift and friends he regularly talks to gifts. I'm hurt and in pain. I love my boyfriend, but his Christmas gifts were so thoughtless and has left a bad taste in my mouth. I have never posted on Reddit before. This is a throwaway account. I don't know where to begin. I, 34F, and my boyfriend, 38M, have been together for several years. 3. We used to give each other really nice gifts. Not necessarily expensive, but things we knew the other would like. Things like he got me a signed copy of the screenplay of an obscure movie I like, a favorite movie of mine. And I have gotten him stuff like a big fluffy robe to replace his old one, a mini fridge for his game room, etc. It's not a competition, but I always try and think about what he would really like. Sometimes it's silver chains, other times it's like a pocket knife. He really likes them. And so this year I tried as best as I could. I spent probably a little more than I should have, but I wanted to give him things he would really like. Stuff that he doesn't necessarily need but would be a nice surprise. An official jersey of his favorite team with his name on it, new stuff for his gaming setup, new headset, new monitor, new arm, back pillow for his chair, etc. And he got me, well, a set of fridge organizers and a new set of silverware for the house. We live together. That we both said we needed to get to replace our old set. He did get me some candy I like, but he usually eats it more than I do. In fact, he ate all the ones I had previously bought and said he would replace them. I just didn't know it was going to be as a Christmas gift. And a robe to match his. He got me a mini multi-tool for me that he knows I don't really use and would be more for him. A hairbrush because he didn't want to share his. I just feel that the thought wasn't there and he just rushed and got me these things fairly carelessly, or stuff that we just needed for the house, and wrapped it up and put a bow on it and said Merry Christmas. I don't know how to feel, and I'm kind of hurt with the lack of thought put into it. I'm not saying I wanted anything expensive, I just wanted to feel like he actually thought of me as a person. We have been living together for a while now and he knows me pretty well, I'd like to think, and it just felt so shallow. Everything I got felt so hollow and shallow. And I know I should be grateful for anything, but we are a dual income, no kid home, and I really don't ask him for much other than splitting the bills and rent. I don't ask him for money. We both have separate banking accounts, and I am usually the person to buy takeout or Uber Eats if I don't feel like cooking. His family gave us both a bunch of gift cards, and he tried to give me more of them from the ones he got, and it has me wondering if he did that because he knew he didn't really put anything into the actual gifts. Sorry this got long, but I just thought the gifts would have been a little more meaningful. Like he got me a plastic Teens Wicked the movie makeup travel box, knowing I have a nice professional makeup box that has an LED mirror because I travel so much for work and stay in hotels regularly. I had bought it this past year and he has seen me use it. He also knew earlier this year I had talked about wanting an advent calendar. Even if it was a cheap one, it would have meant he had listened. Or a homemade one. And I guess I'm just venting, but I wish I knew how to bring it up to him. Like, it hurts a bit, but I don't want him to get upset at me and call me ungrateful. He saw that I seemed down and he said sorry for ruining Christmas, and it made me feel awful, so I apologized and said it was nothing. But it is something. And lately for all of our gifts this past year, it's been this way. It feels like he really doesn't care or listen to me. My interests are pretty apparent as I decorate the house with a lot of the stuff he and I like. So it just feels very lopsided and one-sided. Should the majority of your quality time be spent with your spouse or with someone else? My 36F husband, 36M, spends more time with his brother than me. I find this weird. He does not. We are busy all day with work and kids. When they are finally down for the night, he jumps online with his brother and talks plus games for hours. If he isn't gaming with him, then his brother will come over to hang out or my husband will go to his house. They spend a minimum of an hour together every day, but usually much more. Without a shadow of a doubt, he spends more quality time with him than me. We actually get virtually no alone time together because the times when we could hang out, he is with his brother. Or he is all talked out after hanging with his bro that it's like talking to a wall. So is it strange? I think it's weird to spend more quality time with someone other than your spouse. He doesn't see it that way. If you spend more quality time with someone other than your spouse, who is it? My dad keeps calling my wife the wrong name. My 32M wife, 29F, have been together 4 years and got married over the summer. Over the past 2 years, my dad, 66M, has called my wife the wrong name 5 times. It's not intentional. He's just getting old. The first 2 times she really didn't care and was a good sport about it, but understandably she's getting more upset as it continues to happen, as it makes her feel very small. After the 3rd time it happened, I confronted my dad. He was really embarrassed and knows it's a factor of his old age. It was hard to see how embarrassed he was. What do I do? My wife gets really upset, my dad gets really embarrassed, and it appears to be something we're just going to have to deal with. I'm not sure how to navigate my relationship with my MIL. Looking for advice. Hi everyone. Yesterday at Christmas I was reminded of the fact that my mother-in-law acts like a child with no regard for other people. I will say she isn't a bad person. She's just rude and has no impulse control. If anyone so much as thinks of criticizing anything she owns, or does she reverts to a saying, well, I raised 3 kids by myself and it was hard and I'm not going to have anyone tell me what to do like my ex did at Christmas. Yesterday an empty water bottle was passed to her to pass to my wife. I'm in between them. She then throws it directly at my leg hard enough it bounces to the floor. This gets the usual out of her 3 daughters. Instead of apologizing she says, oh, it didn't hurt, you're fine, I was trying to be funny. She's right, it didn't hurt. It's still rude, uncalled for and childish. She was constantly reaching across me while I was eating between them on the couch to the point I went to a different spot to finish my meal. She does these things all the time. Another couple examples. She got extremely defensive when the employee at the hardware store told her that the pipes in her trailer were an older style and needed a converter pipe to put a new sink in. Well, I like my trailer, it's the best I could get. I worked hard to get that trailer. My wife had to explain to her that he just was saying that the pipes were different and they wouldn't fit. He wasn't trash-talking her house. She got up when my SIL stayed with her once and started changing a light fixture and banging around at 5 a.m. She then proceeds to wake her up to ask for help installing the light fixture at 5 a.m. Driving with one knee while trying to eat custard on a busy highway with 4 passengers in the car while veering side to side. Everyone else was waiting to eat until we got home. Not her. Another moment. She never apologizes or realizes her actions cause other people frustration. If they say anything she gets extremely defensive and then deflects to something unrelated. Yes, I realize this sounds like she is dealing with trauma or some other mental issue. I just don't know how to approach the situation. Hiking and walking across a bridge and then spitting over the side just because she could and wanted to watch it fall. This one is less abrasive, I just find it childish, and it also got another out of the wife. When we lived with her, we asked her to pick up toilet paper for the house after she got off work, as we were running low. We were planning on paying her back. She went to the store, put the toilet paper in the cart, rolled up to the line. She noticed the line was long, so she left the cart with the toilet paper in the cart in the middle of the aisle and just left because she didn't want to wait. I had to go get it when I got home. When we were living with her, she would barge into the room we stayed in, no knocking, to talk to my wife. When I said, I wanted some time to de-stress after work, could you talk out in the living room? She waved her hand and said, you'll get over, and proceeded to talk to my wife. Her opinion is the only one she cares about or thinks about. With most things, we have a baby on the way. She will be one of the primary caregivers for my child while we are at work. It worries me. Again, overall, she is not a bad person. She is kind and took care of her dad when he was passing every day. She cares about her family. She just doesn't have much thought for how her actions affect others. I bring it up with my wife, and while she agrees, she says that it's her mom and you can't change her. I don't know what to do. How do I navigate this? I don't know what to do / say after I let my GF move in with her kids. I, 40M, have been with my GF, 40F, for about 2 years. We both came from abusive marriages. My GF has 3 kids of her own, in their teens, and has had odd jobs over the years, but hasn't really worked for a while and has no savings. She's always been seemingly disorganized with finances. I have a stable job that makes me travel quite a bit, so I let her move into my house with her 3 kids. The relationship has been a roller coaster ride. I recognize I can be moody and annoying at times, so I'm not claiming to be perfect. I easily get swayed by emotions, even if it's emotional blackmail, and I don't like to cause hurt. It's come to a point that I think this relationship may not be healthy, but I have no idea how to break things off, what to say, how to get her out of the house knowing full well she has absolutely nothing and is estranged from her own family. I know it's going to end up in tears and cries, and I will most likely give in. I'm seeing a therapist as well, but I'm still at a loss on how to handle this situation. I know she's also tried to make some efforts in improving things between us, and I don't want her to be homeless. But at the same time, the roller coaster ride of emotions is just too much to handle at times. What are your thoughts? What should I say and how? Me, 18M, and my best friend, 18F, have a very close-knit relationship, and many people see romantic tension / want us to be together. Can anybody help me discern whether she has feelings for me? This is going to be a long post in order for you to get the full scope. Sorry in advance. I know there's subtitles. I just need to let all this go. There is a TLDR at the end, but I really recommend you read it all. Context: okay, so about midway through this year, me and this girl became fast friends because we already had mutuals, and it made sense to get to know each other for convenience. It started with just acknowledging each other around school with waves or smiles, or occasionally conversing if we really wanted, but we had only one class together, so nothing really blossomed. Eventually, we began sending each other cute animal videos on Insta, as well as generally having intermittent conversations in the friend group Discord server we have set up. Soon enough, she asked if I'd like to hang out in person, and that's where our friendship actually took off, because we were both sort of forced to be around each other for a day with no other friends in the equation. We talked for hours, and we really got to know each other, which just made us more eager to finally become close. This eventuated in calls where she would pick out a movie/show and we'd watch it. They are always superhero related, and while I'm not particularly into that sort of thing, I watch it for her. At the time, these calls were nightly, but they've declined to a level where it's more like multiple times weekly, but occasionally she will do nightly ones when she's bored. The calls last for an average of 6 to 8 hours, where it's just a movie and then talking. She is genuinely the only person who I can talk to about anything and not get tired of, and she reciprocates this feeling with me. We tell each other everything from secrets to insecurities to mildly interesting things that occur in our day-to-day. The calls were the main driving force between us, but recently, it's also started to shift to semi-common hangouts. So far, we've hung out at her suburb, my house, the city multiple times, and at the movies. We're planning for her to come over for the day and watch movies in person at my place sometime after the new year as well. Romance: for as long as we've been close, we have both agreed that not only do we not like each other, but that we don't want relationships, period. Everyone who knows us both has pretty much voiced that they think we should be together. Some even predict how long it'll take for us to realize that. We are both leaning towards aromantic, and she herself is asexual. Despite this, she has voiced loving the idea of a relationship, but not being bothered enough to have one. Her ideal relationship would be a best friend she can be clingy with. I reciprocate this. That sounds great, but I'm not a dater. She's had many previous relationships throughout early high school and has said that they turned her off dating and made her realize she doesn't really feel any romantic attraction beyond friendship. I really feel she contradicts herself a lot and may even be confused about her intentions/ideals. Hell, she even says she has a type. We definitely acknowledge we have a superficially romantic/couple-like relationship, especially to the outside perspective. We have lunch out together, we watch movies together, we don't get tired of each other, we are similar in a million ways, yada yada. If I can be honest, there have been moments when I feel she has romantic intentions, but 90% I can't see her that way at all. For example, I can point out specific times where she has made me question my stance. For example, she painted me with red dye on Halloween in incredibly close proximity where it felt as though a regular friend wouldn't. She leant into my arm for the entirety of a movie we watched in the theaters, to the point she was hogging my armrest and not using her own. We shared food and went out for ice cream together. We call late at night and share intimate discussions. She paused a conversation to ask me what I'd do if someone tried to kiss me. She's made it clear how highly she regards my friendship, particularly over other male friends. She calls one-on-one and hangs out with me IRL over even female friends, etc. At the same time, however, I can easily explain this away. She's incredibly affectionate physically and generally to everyone. She's very bubbly and friendly. She stated she's aro/ace. I'm not her type. She knows I'm not into dating, etc. One thing I should mention is that she was asked out by a mutual friend earlier this year, and she rejected him based on her aromantic identity. I know they were really close before, but I don't believe it was to the same degree I am with her now. How to tell my boyfriend I'm anxious about going on a trip with his family. So, a few months ago my boyfriend's family booked a trip for us to go on a safari in September next year. We are quite integrated in each other's lives. We've been together for over a year and have taken various trips together in that time. We also live together with my boyfriend's aunt, so we tend to do a lot of things all together. Therefore, there weren't really any questions asked about me joining them, and the tickets were booked and everything has now been paid for, which I understand has cost a fortune. However, I'm finding myself feeling really anxious about going. I know that it's supposed to be a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and I'm sure there are many parts of it that would be incredible, but everything about it is making me feel so anxious whenever I think about it. The biggest issue for me is the light aircrafts that we'll be taking. I'm not a fan of flying at the best of times, but the idea of a small plane is terrifying to me. I've literally been having dreams every night about being in one that crashes. Because we are going with my boyfriend's aunt, who is elderly, she has also booked 5 trips on a light aircraft as she didn't want to do the long drives instead. So it's not even like it's just one trip that I need to prepare myself for. It's 5. Another thing are the insects and all the injections I will have to take before going. I'm terrified of jabs, and there are so many I need to take in order to be able to fly there, which I really don't want to do. I'm scared of getting sick, and I keep hearing things about bugs out there that can give you diseases and kill. You and I know I shouldn't be reading stuff that will scare me even more, but I can't help it. In addition to that, the trip falls on my birthday, so I won't be able to spend it with my own family or friends, which is slightly bothering me too, as my parents are both elderly and my birthday is always an occasion that I spend with them. The more I think about it, the more I really don't want to go. I know it probably sounds so ungrateful and I wish I wasn't so scared, but I just feel anxious over it every day and I don't feel like I would be able to enjoy it at all. I don't know how to approach the topic with my boyfriend, as the last time I told him I was scared about the small planes he got annoyed at me and said that I was being negative and ungrateful. I don't know how I would be able to get out of going, especially because it's already been booked and paid for now. I suppose they could find someone to take my place, but I just don't know how to mention this, or how to approach the subject. Any advice would be helpful, please. Is it wrong for me to abstain from family vacation? My sister wants to do a family vacation to a state clear across the country for her 39th birthday in the US, so West Coast to East Coast type trip. Me, 30F. My mom, 69F. My sister, Sarah, 39F. And her boyfriend, M40S, would be going. Though I initially agreed to the idea, I am starting to have second thoughts for several reasons. 1. My mom and sister do not get along. 2 summers ago my mom, and Sarah went on a family vacation to another country for 10 days. It was hands down the most miserable 10 days of my life. My mom and Sarah were at each other's throats the entire time. Whenever we go on a trip anywhere, it could be to the grocery store down the block, my mom and sister fight. They are like oil and water, they just don't get along. I'm really laid back, so I usually get stuck in the middle, being the confidant when the other person leaves the room. I told them both that I was sick of being in the middle of their fights all the time, and I was snapping at everyone by the end of the trip myself because I was so sick of them. I had to keep a pretty good buzz on for the entire trip just to get through it. I literally broke down sobbing in my boyfriend's arms as soon as I got back because it was so stressful. I don't want to go through another vacation like that. 2. My boyfriend isn't coming. My boyfriend, together 5 years, lives with me, was invited but doesn't want to come. Gee, wonder why. He is planning to do a staycation for himself, regardless of what I plan on doing. Not only does it suck that I would have to waste all of my vacation time on this trip, but I wouldn't be able to spend any of the time with my boyfriend and our dog. Additionally, because of point 1, I foresee this turning into everyone is hanging out together until my mom and Sarah start fighting. Then I get to be mom's chaperone while my sister runs off with her boyfriend to blow off steam and have fun. I resent that. Love my mom to no end, and I understand that this is my sister's birthday celebration, but I feel like it's kind of messed up that my vacation would be reduced to being my mom's travel mate so my sister can cherry pick when she does and doesn't want to hang out with us, meanwhile patting herself on the back for planning a successful family vacation where she had fun. I wouldn't mind doing this on a weekend trip, but I don't think I want to go for anything approaching a week. 3. I'm broke. I don't have money to go on vacation with my boyfriend, let alone travel cross-country for a week with my family. I live in my mom's house. She is here 2 days out of the week and then lives with her boyfriend the other part of the week. Because we can't afford an apartment and save money at the same time, me and my boyfriend are down to one car due to a recent car accident. Everyone was fine. And it just feels ridiculous to spend more money on vacations that make me pissed off. My mom and sister offered to pay my way, but that just makes me feel like a failure on top of it. I'd rather just take off for a week and stay home so I'm not burning a hole in someone else's pocket. Or not go on vacation at all and take the payout from my job at the end of the year for time not used. Still haven't decided. I am hesitant to pull out because my mom desperately wants to travel now that she is retired and has some money, and her boyfriend will not travel with her. She therefore has been relying on me and my sister to chaperone her, which is how we ended up in a different country 2 summers ago. My mom keeps pushing for us to go on more and more trips, and my blood is starting to run cold every time she brings it up. My sister likes to travel and has the time and money, but they don't get along. I get along with my mom all right, but I'm broke and honestly, I don't really like to travel. My mom and sister straight up cannot go alone together, and I just don't want to go alone with my mom. Even though we get along, she is still very hard for me to be around in her own right. She is extremely overbearing, and while I can power through her attitude and still have a decent time doing things with her, it is extremely draining, and she's just getting worse as she gets older. I stop enjoying time with her after about the 3rd day, if I'm being honest. Traveling is extremely stressful for me, and I typically do not go too far away from home if I can avoid it, and once again, I feel resentful that my extra cash and vacation time would be put towards a trip for the benefit of other people. Even if it is my mom. I love her, but this shouldn't be my job. Even if it is my sister. I love her and I'm happy it's her birthday, but this whole situation is too much me getting screwed over. Everyone else getting what they want. At this point, I don't know what to do. The last vacation we went on was horrible because they made it miserable with their fighting. I love my sister, but I'm not in a position to be accepting invites for a goddamn destination birthday, and I don't want to become the babysitter on the trip. I love my mom, but I don't think it's fair that I should become her de facto travel mate because I'm easygoing and live in her house. I pay rent and have a job. My boyfriend pays rent and has a job. I'll go on a weekend vacay, but asking me to chaperone her cross-country/globally for a week at a time is too much for me to handle. Throw my sister into the equation and I would literally rather run my head through a closed window than go traveling with them again. Additionally, I feel bad because I realize if I don't go, my sister will most likely just cancel the trip or go without my mom. I don't like that other people are potentially missing out because of me, but is it my job to be the glue in this situation? Abandonment issues in long relationship? TLDR. I'm so anxious of my partner just up and leaving me that it's taking over my life. I, 30, have been in a relationship for over 3 years with 28, with my previous relationship being 7 years. My current partner is everything I could dream of. He is consistent, reassures me, and just a good person and partner. However, I'm consistently worried about the fear of him leaving me, or when he goes out, which isn't often, that he's going to meet someone he likes better than me and just leave me for them. It's so weird because I've never had this in previous relationships and it's killing me. Once I get these thoughts, I absolutely spiral and end up an anxious mess. Whenever I Google fear of abandonment, it says abuse as a child, etc. I've had a fairly normal childhood and my parents are very loving, so I'm beyond confused why my brain is doing this. I'm a naturally anxious person and I'm on anxiety medication that usually keeps it at bay, but this genuinely sends me spiraling. Has anyone else been through this and have any foolproof ways they've helped themselves? It's so bad that I'm considering therapy, as I believe if it's not going to ruin me, it's going to ruin the relationship down the line. Any advice welcome. Thank you. How do I get out of a surprise family trip that was gifted to me? I, 26F, have lived in a different city from my family since I was 20. My family are very family-oriented, and I've always been the so-called black sheep of them. There's 8 of us all together, me, sister, mom, then my mom's sisters and their kids. My auntie has booked for us all to go on a 5-day vacation. as a gift. I had no say in this, and didn't know it was happening. There's a few things here. My upbringing was horrible. Mother was an abusive alcoholic, quick-tempered, mean. She has calmed down now, though still drinks, and can get mean. She was horrible to me as a child, and being around her makes me feel insane. I'm so anxious on eggshells. My auntie knows this. Still, she's booked for us to stay in a room together for 5 days. I honestly felt like crying when I heard. My family generally have no respect for boundaries. They're loud, obnoxious, and really overwhelming. They do all kinds of things that really upset me. It's little things like constantly taking pictures of me even though they know I hate having my picture taken, or constantly touching me when they know it upsets me. Every time I see my family, I end up arguing and looking like an asshole because they'll grab me or touch me, and I'll ask them and ask them not to, until they point where I flip out and I look horrible and mean, and then they just flip it over. Oh, but we never see you. We just love you. I feel like being around them just wears me down entirely. They just keep pushing my buttons until I eventually give in, and it's exhausting. There's the other thing, two of them just questioning my lifestyle. We are from a small rural town. Everyone works in factories or care work. I now work in a bar in the city and do creative things on the side. I'm also queer, and all my friends are queer. There's this constant berating of me, to the point where I feel as though I'm always needing to defend my choices, my views, my beliefs, my life, my friends. I know a lot of people go through that. It's just exhausting. Just over and over again questions about when I'll get a real job, what I'm doing with my life, and then snide comments about my friends looking weird. There's also the classic thing of just arguing with me about politics. This annoys me because I never bring politics up. I know we disagree, we have done for the last decade. We don't need to talk about it. But they'll ask me my opinion on something, I will give it, and then they start telling me why that opinion is stupid. That is all of our conversations. My 2 older cousins, who are on the trip, both have a habit of calling me slurs as a joke. This has been a pattern since I was about 4, and I've always allowed it because I was young. Now it feels like it will just cause a huge family blow up if I argue with it. Lastly, the trip is something I'm just completely not going to enjoy anyway. It's an activity-based trip with loads of sports and things. Honestly, my worst nightmare. Despite all this, I still want a relationship with them. I can't straight up tell them that I don't want to go and release all these issues to everyone, so I need to find a way to get out of this trip. My 27M, roommate/friend with benefit, 26M, has brought in a third, 38M, into our relationship. How do I deal? Regarding our arrangement, we were roommates with zero undertones of being a couple. I was convinced at the time that I was straight. Turns out I'm bi with a very strong preference for women. I'm 99% straight and 1% gay, and I caught feelings for Oliver, who reciprocated enthusiastically. He's lived as an openly gay man for years, but I did not start off by saying, yo, turns out I'm bi and you make me feel things. Let's be each other's exclusive boyfriend. Rather, we kind of stumbled into kissing/cuddling/sleeping together pretty much daily, being friends with benefits who live under the same roof, share everything, including pooling both our incomes like a married couple. Oliver is very liberated in this way. He thinks nothing of sleeping with friends. I'm more traditional and thinking of Oliver as my boyfriend, even though we were never exclusive. Oliver kept having one-night stands all the while. We kissed for the first time about 18 months ago, and I did not mind because the other guy would be in and out with no feelings. With Isaac, Oliver is actually dating him, going to the cinema, getting invited to restaurants, being romantic, spending evenings in our home watching movie and kissing on the couch. Isaac showed up in my life 2 months ago, but Oliver has known him longer. Isaac knows about me and is fine with it. He's into poly and even offered to be a throuple with me and Oliver. And he leaned in to kiss me on the lips once. I dodged. I am not into Isaac at all. If I were to date someone else, it'd be a woman, but both Oliver and Isaac are strictly gay. And if I dated a woman, I think my relationship with Oliver would collapse because he would have Isaac, I'd have a girlfriend, and our be best friends, roommates, and also do the nasty together all the time relationship, which I love more than anything, would be over. I have talked about it in depth with Oliver, and it's what scares me most. Oliver understands I'm jealous, and it hurts me to see him with Isaac, but his stance is that he never agreed to be my exclusive boyfriend, that he is totally fine continuing being friends with benefits with me while he dates Isaac seriously, but he won't abandon his freedom. I offered to make him and me an official couple, again no cigar. He likes me but refuses to block all his other options, which is why he dates Isaac, because both of them are into non-monogamy, and he can have an official boyfriend in Isaac while continuing to sleep around, just to be hitched with me. He says my options are, keep the status quo where he dates Isaac and sleeps with me for fun, but I keep feeling jealous and neglected like I have for the past 2 months. We break up and I move out of our apartment and he continues to date Isaac. Or I accept Isaac's offer to be a throuple and I'll be included in the dating Isaac thing. None of the options include him letting Isaac go. What should I do? All 3 options seem horrible and depressing. Which one should I choose? How do I, 22M, help my GF, 21F, embrace her interest in girls? We have been dating for 4.5 years. Within the first month, she told me that she thought she was bisexual, but wasn't sure yet as she never even tried anything with girls. At that time, I didn't feel very comfortable as I already felt very jealous at the thought of her liking other men, and adding women to the list of things that worried me would probably be too much then lol. We never spoke about it again, until recently when she told me she liked looking at girls, watching videos of girls kissing other girls, among other stuff. She was hiding all of this from me for quite some time. And for some reason, I wasn't mad about it. I was actually kind of interested. We talked about adding another girl to our sexual endeavors, but turns out it's not something we want to deal with as we're worried about what it could change in our relationship. But nonetheless, the thought of her being into girls is something that I really like nowadays and something I wanted to explore more, even if not physically, but I would really like her to be more open about it with me and to stop hiding what she likes. Any tips on how I can help her embrace this side of hers more? I, 28M, have a weird dynamic with my best friend, 27F. How do I know if I should move on or not? I, 28M, have a very weird dynamic with my best friend, 27F. How to move forward. Me and my best friend started hooking up a couple years ago, 2021 to be exact. Back then she really wanted a relationship, but I had no intention of being in one, so I kept rejecting the idea and brushing it aside. I have a lot of commitment issues and other things, so I just wasn't in a position to do so. Every day after that, literally every day, she's called me and always kept in her life as the most important person, and I fell in love with her. I was finally sure that I wanted to be with her more than anything. I realized I liked talking to her every day and hearing about her day and stuff and all that. We were in 2 different countries with very different time zones, but we still talked every single day and was involved in everything in each other's lives. Fast forward to 2023, we finally ended up in the same place, and just as I was about to travel to her country, she told me that she planning of going on a date. I was completely dejected as I really thought we both liked each other a lot. So I confessed my feelings for her. She said she couldn't be with me because of the things I put her through and the trauma was too much. She said she's very hurt by the fact that she always felt like a second option, so she couldn't put herself through it. She said she was too dependent on me and she can't do that to herself. We even had a conversation about how she said she's going to join dating apps and stuff and if I would be okay with it. Since then, she's still been calling me every day, video calling me and everything. We did have a lot of fights in between, but we still end up back in the same boat of her telling that I hurt her and stuff. But she still ends up calling me every day and sharing everything. At a recent party, I kissed her on her forehead and she kissed me back on my cheek. But since that day, she hasn't spoken to me. I honestly don't know how to feel about all this cause NGL, it feels like she still likes me but is very conflicted. What do I do? Also, can we continue doing whatever it is that we are doing? I honestly don't think anything good is going to come off having such a dynamic with someone I really like. Can anyone be completely honest with me about this? My boyfriend, 26M, and I, 21F, have been together for 2.5 years. Our relationship is marked by 2 breakups. We met in the first year of college. The first one happened when we had been together for 8 months. He was a depressed, anxious person, which is what drew me to him because I felt understood. However, after a month of love bombing, this depression slowly turned into alcoholism and avoidance. We fought quite a lot and I realized that he had some issues from a relationship that he was in at 18. I found a message he had sent that girl at 2 a.m. The message was not related to their relationship. It was something random, like, I'll finish college soon, too, because she apparently judged him for not applying to college for a few years after high school. I was mad and he was drunk every day. I couldn't get an answer as to why he sent her that text, and since I knew that she was his first love that broke up with him, which made him skip school, not get his driving license and not go to college for a few years, I kept asking him if he still loves her. The answer was that he probably does, but what he feels about her doesn't undermine what he feels about me. He now says he, in fact, didn't love her, but was just confused and lost nevertheless. I obviously broke up with him because I didn't want to be someone's second choice. We got back together after a short time, because I told him our therapist said that what he feels is not love, but trauma. I still feel dumb for that decision. After we got back together, however, the avoidance only got worse and the drinking also. He had enough of me not giving him space and asking him to stop drinking, so he broke up with me. I was destroyed, but in about 3 weeks I understood that there's no point in wanting to be in a relationship like that, so I was okay. However, after a month and a half, he came by with a letter in which he was telling me he was going to change. I told him not to text me, but he did, and for a month he kept begging me to get back together. The night we met, and he seemed to understand that he should let it go. He called me and told me that he's sick and in the hospital. Long story short, he almost died from a medical emergency. I still did not give in for a month or so, but we saw each other often because he would be anxious he'd have that happen to him again, and I was afraid that he would die and I would feel guilty. He one day asked me to give him time to prove himself, and I thought I would, until he got his labs, that would tell us if he has this illness for life. We later found out that he does, when I told myself I would hang around until he got better mentally. I've been hanging around since then, as we slowly settled back in a relationship. Things are much better, he doesn't drink anymore, and I spend almost all of my time at his place. He doesn't seem to want space anymore. It's been almost a year since we got back together, and although we do sometimes have issues, he seems to pick up on them when I explain and fix them. He's much more attentive, and when sometimes I remind him of what he did, he says he was incredibly stupid. I sometimes feel like all of this was supposed to happen, while he says that what happened to him was his karma. Also, he recently told me that he thinks he would have died if I didn't get back together with him. The thing is, I still have a feeling that it's a mistake I'm still with him, as no one deserves to be treated this way. So that's what my post is about. The question is it universally wrong that I took him back? Am I naive? Would you take someone who treated you this way back? I'm 20F and he's 20F, been together for a year, becoming mentally checked out. Need advice on what to do. Scroll down for TLDR, I've been with him for about a year now. He's in the military, we started dating not too long after basic once he settled in on post. I'd say the first half of our relationship was truly amazing, but ever since his deployment he came back a different person. He was deployed in Romania during the summertime and was supposed to be there until April next year. He came back October because it was causing his mental health to decline terribly. The only way he was able to come back was because he was sent to the hospital. It was that serious, and ever since he's been on all sorts of medications. We were fine for the first month he came back, everything was great. We had actually got married in court just so we could get an apartment in BH, but didn't count it as an actual marriage. Now this is really biting me in the ass. Eventually then we started arguing and fighting a lot because he wanted to use weed/shrooms to help with his depression. I wasn't trying to be a Debbie Downer or negative. I was genuinely looking out for him because first off, if you smoke weed in the military you can get in so much trouble. The only reason he was opting for shrooms was because it doesn't show up on a panel test. But I was so hesitant and concerned about him using just to cope. He says he microdoses, but it's the opposite and keeps over pushing my boundaries. There's a lot of shit that has happened. Ever since that fight about shrooms a few weeks ago, he's broken up with me on my birthday, and since then we've just been fighting. I've been trying so hard. He's been to the hospital again and was discharged Monday, and Monday was such a good day. The communication was perfect, and then Tuesday everything just crashed. He snapped on me, and it's caused him to leave me alone and wondering where we stand. It's all I've been thinking about during Christmas Eve and Christmas. Christmas Eve we talked about giving each other a month break for his mental health reasons, and I genuinely was going to be fine with that. Then last night I talked to him again just to check in, and he said he wanted to break up with me. Keep in mind, when I stated this break thing, I just stated we were still together. Both not allowed to talk to other people. Well, anyways, right after he broke up with me, I impulsively downloaded Hinge. And guess what? He was on there. Everything he told me that he couldn't provide me was in his prompts and everything. It's making me go crazy. I don't even know anymore. He basically cheated on me even when I said we were still together, because he had this account before he broke up with me officially last night. Sorry if the writing isn't perfect. I'm stressed out on 3 hours of sleep, working a 10-hour shift today against my will. I really need help and opinions. He's gonna come talk to me today, but God knows what. I think I'm mentally checked out of this, because God knows how many females he hit on and had wandering eyes for. The trust for me is gone, and I don't think I can believe anything else he says. And I believe his mental illness doesn't help his behavior, but sometimes he uses it as an excuse to be manipulative. You remember how I said